I can't believe you gave him your number.
It may be late, but Carol McClendon and Rhonda Simmons are still riding high after a night on the town.
Girl, he was cute.
Carol's going to drop Rhonda off at her townhouse.
Wait, what's going on at your mom's house?
Carol points out to Rhonda, but there's an ambulance parked there.
Can you imagine what they'd be thinking? Is my family in danger? Are they hurt? They have no idea what's going on, but they know that it's something very serious.
Oh my God.
I'm often up several times during the night, and sometimes I cannot go back to sleep. That particular morning, I was standing in front of the window, looking at the city lights, wondering what everyone was up to at that moment. And the phone rang, and I knew that somebody was up to something.
It's Kenda. Okay, I'll be right there.
Careful, Joe.
I will.
20 minutes later, Kenda pulls up to a suburban home awash in police lights. Detective Perry Freeman is already on the scene.
Hey, Lieutenant. Sorry to drag you out at this hour.
And anything else going on?
In '94, I was one of 6 homicide detectives that worked under Joe Kenda. And when I arrived, there were a number of uniforms already there.
So what do we got?
Victim's name is Willie Jackson, age 65.
He spent 20 years in the Air Force. Now, this guy, he looks like he's 45. He's in great shape for a 65-year-old man.
You know, he's somebody who really takes care of himself. He works at the fitness center at Fort Carson.
His wife's a lot younger, maybe mid-40s. He lived here with her and her teenage son.
So who made the call?
Wife did.
Said she found her husband on the bedroom floor unresponsive, no pulse.
Thinks it might have been alcohol poisoning.
Alcohol poisoning. What do you think?
I only did a walkthrough, but she could be right.
The Major Crimes Unit responds to any suspicious death. And in a case like this, I don't think anybody knew if we had alcohol poisoning or if it could be something else.
Now let's go take a closer look while we wait for the coroner to arrive.
Normally, when I walk into a crime scene, nobody's in there. And when I walked into this crime scene,
So what's with the full house?
there was a mob in there.
They were here when I got here.
There are 3 women and a young male standing around in this kitchen.
So who are all these people?
These 2 are the wife's daughter and a friend.
He said they saw the EMTs and they stopped on their way home. So they weren't here when this event occurred.
How about the other 2?
Well, one is his wife, Tony, and the kid is named Malik. He is the wife's son by another marriage.
Now, they live here. They were here when the ambulance got on scene.
We can't have them all standing around together, though.
Yes, sir.
It's important to have witnesses, but it's not important to have them in the crime scene. So my next direction was move these people out of this building.
I want you to take the 2 witnesses and put them in separate patrol cars.
Yes, sir.
If you allow these people to be together, you could wind up with a similar story that they have rehearsed. Further, we don't want them to overhear or oversee what we're doing.
Let's take a look around.
The first thing you do is make an assessment of what kind of place is this. Are things broken and out of place and turned over?
Someone runs a tight ship here.
Yeah, sure looks that way.
I found the house to be fairly tidy, well kept. Things were in their normal places.
The one thing detectives find to be out of place is the victim himself.
When we first observed Willie's body, he was on the floor of a bedroom.
It's a strange place to lay down. I guess if he was drunk.
You could smell the alcohol. So the assumption was that he had just been drinking recently.
Paramedics said they found him in that position.
In Colorado, a body is never disturbed until a coroner is present. We observe what we can see without moving the body.
On initial observation, there was no ligature marks, there was no bullet wound, there was no trauma observed at all.
Well, he could have had a heart attack. Maybe hit the bottle too hard.
Yep. There's more empties in the kitchen. Wife might have been right about the alcohol poisoning.
So alcohol is kind of an interesting drug because at really low dosage, it acts kind of like a stimulant. It gets people excited. It makes you, more comfortable at parties. It makes you outgoing. But at high doses, it has the opposite effect. It's a very powerful depressant.
A person can actually drink himself to death by consuming way too much alcohol. The body functions slow down, and pretty soon you can just stop breathing.
Hey, Joe. I heard you might have a body for me.
Yeah, he's all yours. Let's talk to witnesses.
We leave the coroner to do his work, and it's time to do our work. Let's talk to the other humans that aren't dead and see what they know about how Willie came to be the way he is.
Willie, come Lieutenant Kenda. It's Detective Freeman.
So the first person I speak to is the son, Malik. He is Tony's son. He is not Willie's son.
All right, do you mind if we ask you a few questions?
He exhibits the behavior of a normal 17-year-old, sullen and quiet and distrustful of adults.
First off, I'm sorry about your stepfather.
We weren't that type. Did you get along? No, not really.
I don't think there was a very good relationship between Malik and Willie Jackson. Maybe some jealousy, I'm not sure. But we certainly wanted to take note of what his attitude was like. He was somewhat cooperative, but we were also somewhat suspicious of him.
He's not quite as upset as you would think somebody in his position should be. Does that raise suspicion? Sure it does. But it also could be just, he's a 17-year-old kid, didn't get along well with his stepfather, and just doesn't really care.
Where's your natural father?
He's up in Washington. Haven't talked to him in a while, though.
Why don't you tell us what happened tonight?
Malik says, I was out with friends. I didn't come home till about 11:30.
And my mom was upset. Told me to go to my room. Willie was in the mood.
Malik says that in a mood to him means that Willie's drunk. Willie's always drunk, and therefore he's always in a mood.
Malik had indicated that Willie Jackson was basically an alcoholic and pretty much drank every day.
With alcoholism, they have to maintain a certain level of alcohol in their system, and so they might keep a bottle in their drawer or have some in their car or kind of stash it around because they know that their body will crave it throughout the day.
He always wants to come home and fight, and he doesn't stop until he passes out.
So what else did your mom say?
She told me to stay out of his way. Stay in my room.
Who the hell do you think you are? Talking to me like that.
Mother, you junk-ass fool!
Malik advised that he could hear his mother and Willie upstairs arguing.
So he turned up his television so he didn't have to hear the disturbance.
According to Malik, he was up for the next few hours, and eventually hunger struck.
He said, my mother called to me from the master bedroom.
Yeah.
Malik! Malik!
What?
Get in here!
So Malik walked into the bedroom and saw his mother kneeling on the floor next to Willie.
She was checking for a pulse, but there was nothing. She called 911, but it was too late. He was already dead.
Excuse me, Lieutenant. Sorry to interrupt. They need you inside.
Okay. Well, thank you, Malik. So what do you got so far?
I'll show you.
So it's totally possible that he died of natural causes or alcohol poisoning. But take a look at this.
So he rolls the victim over onto his stomach. Now we have a mystery on our hands. We are summoned to this home because Mr. Willie Jackson is dead on the second floor. When the wife called 911, she said alcohol poisoning. Our coroner reports he has a puncture wound that we cannot explain.
It's small, but it could go pretty deep. It's in a really bad spot.
There are important vessels that run through the thigh, one of which is the femoral artery, the main artery that supplies blood to the lower extremity.
If it was deep enough, could have hit an artery. He could have bled to death. It's too soon to say. Have to wait on the autopsy.
Right. Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Kind of a strange place for a stabbing.
Yeah, just one wound.
Someone with a knife. It's a very personal way to kill somebody. When that occurs and rage is a factor, there are multiple wounds. Willie has no other wounds. None. That's very, very odd.
The wound did not look like it was like a really bad stab wound. You know, you generally think of somebody getting stabbed in the chest or slitting the throat or stomach or something like that. You know, you don't think of somebody who wants to kill somebody stabbing them or slicing them in the back of the thigh. So that also is really unusual because it's like that would make it seem like more of an accident than an intentional stabbing.
We're all thinking that's a very unusual place to be stabbed. And we thought possibly he had cut himself on something outside, or maybe he had been injured before he even came home from work. He could have fallen on something.
It's odd. Even if the wound didn't hit the artery, it seems like it still would have bled plenty.
So if we're concerned about blood loss being the significant factor here, where is it?
There's no blood on the bed or the walls.
Well, this place is clean.
And he pulls the sheets back. Ooh, now that's significant.
We found that there was a large soaking of blood into the mattress of the bed next to the body.
That's a lot of blood.
The bloodstain has been concealed by clean sheets. Why would somebody do that?
Hey, Lieutenant, can I talk to you?
Of course.
I don't know if it was connected or not, but I've answered 2 calls here today. The last one was about several hours ago.
He said somebody called 911 and we responded here on a welfare check.
Well, I think if police are called to the same location for domestic violence several times over a course of time, that, you know, they might be concerned that something's going on that they really don't know. But there hadn't been, this wasn't the situation where Tony and Willie had been involved in police, you know, coming to check on them often. So police really didn't have any background information that there was trouble here. They were just doing what someone had asked them to do. So a welfare check is generally somebody else who sees or hears something going on somewhere and is concerned and calls police and says, hey, you know, this might be happening, or I hear this going on. Can you please check the welfare of these people?
Miss Jackson answered the door, said nothing going on, and she didn't need the police. So we left.
And then a couple hours later, she calls back, and now we're here.
Who made the first 911 call?
I don't know. I'll have to call dispatch to find out.
So where's the wife now?
She's over here.
I'm gonna talk to her. Thanks.
Up to this point in the investigation, Tony hasn't been talked to yet. Now it's time to find out what was going on in this household tonight.
Who concealed blood in my crime scene?
Tony, I'm Lieutenant Kenda. Very sorry about your husband. You mind if I ask you a few questions?
No, that's fine.
When I meet Tony, she's upset, somewhat soft-spoken.
How long did you know Willie?
We've been married for about 2 years now.
She said, I met him at the Garcia Gym on Fort Carson, where he's employed as a trainer.
Hey, can you spot me?
Absolutely.
Think I need a little help on my phone.
I think so. Go ahead, show it to me again. What do you like to do for fun?
Why are you asking me out?
Maybe.
I'm Tony.
Willie.
She said, we fell in love very quickly.
He was actually married at the time, but wasn't happy, so he left her for me.
And it's your belief he died of alcohol poisoning?
When I met him, I knew he liked to drink, but I never realized it was this bad.
She said, I noticed in the last few months that the drinking became a problem and we began to argue a lot.
Can you walk me through what happened?
Willie came home late. He usually gets off at 9, but didn't get here until 10:30. I was on the phone with my ex-husband at the time, discussing some issues about our son Malik. Cornelius, he needs his father. You should come out and see him.
Well, yeah!
She said he was so drunk he could barely stand up.
Can't you see I'm on the phone? Oh my God, is that blood? What the hell did you do now?
None of your damn business. Who the hell are you talking to?
Will you lower your voice? It's just Malik's dad.
Oh, give me that.
Wait! He gets so jealous over the smallest thing. I was so mad. I yelled at him to go to bed and sleep it off. And finally, he slunk off.
Tony believes her ex-husband, Cornelius, must have been worried when the line went dead. Apparently, he called 911 to have police check on her.
But she sent the officers away because at the time they arrived, there was no problem, she said.
What happened next?
Well, Malik had come home, and I sent him to his room in case Willie woke up. I didn't want any more tension between those two. And I guess the whole time Willie kept going on his whiskey. So I went in to check on him. Oh my God, Willie, are you okay? So much blood. Did you drink all this?
She said he mumbled something. She couldn't understand what it was.
Okay. Just lift your head up.
But she put a pillow under his head and decided that she needed to clean these sheets before any stains set in.
So I got that going and something just didn't feel right. I had this sick feeling. So I went back to check on him again. Oh my God, Willie! Malik!
Why?
Malik, get in here!
She called Malik, her son, to come up, and at that point they realized it was probably time to call 911.
Here's the bed sheets and rags that I used to clean the carpet in the bedroom.
Okay, now this is important. Did you clean up blood anywhere else in the house besides the bedroom?
No, why?
So, well, he's got a puncture wound in his leg. And if it hit a major vein or an artery, that's possible he could have bled to death.
Seriously?
We're also considering the possibility that he was stabbed this evening.
You mean someone could have killed him?
She appeared to be very shocked.
Can you think of anyone that might want to harm your husband?
No.
You mentioned he left work at 9 and didn't get home until 10:30. Any idea where he stopped on the way?
He didn't say.
Here's my card. If you think of anything else, give me a call. I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
We're gonna find out who did this. I promise.
So we know Willie is alive at or about 9 p.m., and he's alive at 10:30 p.m. when he comes home.
What if Willie Jackson encountered someone on his way home from work?
We need to know where Willie Jackson was for the 90 minutes that he's unaccounted for in his timeline.
Hoping to find out, Kenda sends a detective to Willie's place of employment.
The Garcia Gym on Fort Carson opens at 5 o'clock in the morning because GIs have to get their exercise in before they go to work.
Excuse me, can I speak to the manager?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jose Peralta. How can I help you?
I hate to tell you this, but one of your employees, Willie Jackson, was found dead last night.
That detective speaks to Willie's boss at the gymnasium, tells him that Willie's dead, which the guy cannot believe that he is.
What kind of employee was he?
Well, he was great, actually.
Jose told Detective Freeman that Willie was a very good worker, always on time, never any problems with him.
The people he worked with really loved him. He was a model employee. He was on time. He did his job. And even though his boss may have suspected that he maybe drank a little bit during the day, because he was basically well-liked in his professional situation, nobody really ever raised the issue with him.
He never complained once if I needed something.
Do you know what time he left work last night?
He refereed a volleyball game, so 9, give or take. I can ask some of the other guys that work that game and get back to you with the exact time if you'd like. I want to help.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Listen, you know if Willie had a problem with alcohol?
And Jose indicated that, well, I could smell alcohol on him, but he was such a good worker that never interfered with his work, so I didn't go there.
We're still trying to figure out what our storyline is here between all these different players. And then...
Come in.
Lieutenant, there's Miss Jackson here to see you. Says she has something important to tell you.
Okay, send her in.
Right this way, ma'am.
I have to tell you something.
All right, have a seat.
I was thinking, and there's something you should know.
Oh? And what do you need to tell me?
Willie was cheating on me.
Why didn't you tell us this earlier?
I'm sorry. My mind's all over the place.
Even though Willie Jackson is 65 years of age, he's quite the ladies' man. What if he stops by his girlfriend's place on his way home and she stabs him? It's happened before.
What makes you think he has a girlfriend?
Well, about a week ago, I was looking in his truck and I found some condoms. What the hell?
The wife, Tony, tells me they don't use condoms when they have sex. Obviously, he uses condoms with this other woman.
Now I'm wondering if he was with her last night before he came home. I found this note.
So now we've introduced yet another person. Who is Jenny, and is Jenny married?
It's entirely possible Willie stopped by Jenny's house after work.
Jenny, you home?
That's Robert.
And her husband came home unexpectedly.
Back door. Go.
Obviously, we want to talk to Jenny. So we track her down at her residence.
Lieutenant Kenda, this is Detective Freeman from CSPD. We're looking for Jenny Harris.
That's me.
Much like his current wife, Tony, she is young and she is very attractive.
What's this all about?
We're investigating the death of Willie Jackson.
She admits that, yeah, I know Willie. He's in a large circle of friends that I have.
None of us can believe what happened. It's really horrible.
We'd like to ask you a few questions.
Okay, it'll have to be quick. My husband's coming home soon.
It shouldn't take long.
Come on in.
We say we're there because we have information that leads us to believe that she had a relationship with Willie Jackson.
Relationship? No. I told you we were just friends.
We were told that you were having an affair. Is that true?
I'd really rather not discuss that right now.
Jenny, you can be straight with us. Your husband doesn't need to know.
We want her to understand clearly that we're not going to reveal her involvement, or sexual or otherwise, with this individual to anyone she may be associated with.
We just need to make sure that you and your husband weren't involved in his death.
What? Fine. Willie and I were seeing each other. It was nothing serious, just casual.
She finally admits to being involved with him.
You know, he's a handsome guy. Wasn't really love between us. But I haven't even seen him since last week.
Is your husband aware of the relationship?
No.
Are you sure?
Believe me, if he knew, I would know about it.
Although Jenny seems truthful, detectives can't just take her word for it.
Fortunate for us, we're dealing with a very confined time frame. To commit a murder, you must at a minimum have the opportunity to do so.
Can you tell us where your husband was last night between 9 and 10:30 p.m.?
Yes, he was with me. We were at my sister's house playing cards until midnight. I can give you her information.
I'm checking it.
Yeah.
We called Jenny's sister to verify that they had no opportunity to be involved in the death of Willie Jackson on the prior evening.
Checks out.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Wait, you're not going to talk to my husband about this, are you?
We're not concerned about that. We'll let ourselves out.
I know more secrets and have forgotten more secrets than most people will ever know. My only concern is who caused Willie Jackson to be no longer alive.
With their lead up in smoke, Kenda and Freeman are back to the most basic of questions. Was Willie Jackson even murdered?
Hey, Doc.
Hey, Lieutenant.
You finished with the Willie Jackson autopsy yet?
As a matter of fact, I just got the toxicology report back.
The coroner said he did have a very high blood alcohol content, but that's meaningless and very common in an alcoholic.
The leg wound is the culprit. And it's not an accidental injury where he ran into something sharp. It was made by a steak knife. And it's in the damnedest spot, too, the Hunter's Canal.
This area of the thigh has some veins and arteries that come from the heart, and so a fairly minor wound could cause extensive bleeding.
When we talk about blood loss, the important factor is how much blood have we lost. There's a certain point at which, no matter who you are, that's enough blood loss to kill you. In this case, we got a guy who, he's a little bit older, but he's very healthy, he works out. He's the kind of guy that could withstand a significant amount of blood loss before it's really going to affect him.
It severed a vein, and there is some damage to the femoral artery. So the method of death is exsanguination, and I'm ruling it a homicide.
Exsanguination is essentially a very fancy term for bleeding to death.
Here we are. This is a scientifically established murder.
Given that Willie Jackson died a slow death, it's unclear what time he was stabbed. It's even less clear who stabbed him.
Absent any other suspects, one person who's obviously a person of interest is the wife of Willie Jackson, one Tony Jackson. At this point, we want to find out as much as possible about the relationship between Tony and Willie Jackson. So we decide we want to talk to Willie's ex-wife, Cynthia. We want to ask her two things. We want to ask her about Tony. We want to ask her about Willie.
Yeah, I heard he's dead. It's so hard to believe.
Can you tell us a little bit about him?
She responds about Willie that he is a good man and he does drink, but he's always been a good provider. She always speaks well of him until he meets this evil woman.
But that Tony, now she's a piece of work. Now she's the kind of crazy who would kill her husband.
Why is that?
She tried to kill me.
What?
Oh my. Well, that's interesting. We're investigating the stabbing death of Willie Jackson, and we believe his wife Tony is involved in his death, but we don't have enough evidence to prove it. And now, Willie's ex-wife is telling us that Tony tried to kill her as well.
Can you tell us what happened?
She tried to convince Willie to leave me and marry her, and I was not gonna have that. So I thought it was a phase. I thought it was something he'd get over, but that witch came after me.
The ex-wife says that she was driving down the street one day,
and another car was driving the opposite direction. The car looked like Tony's.
Did you get a good look at the person driving?
No, but I knew it was her.
And at that point, she told Willie, I'm giving you a divorce. Tony is crazy. I don't want anything to do with her.
Did you report the incident?
What proof did I have?
So she told police that it's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe Tony went a little crazy and went after Willie.
Now she has nothing good to say about Tony. Tony is somewhere of a mix between Attila the Hun and the Antichrist, which is what you would expect the wife of 41 years to say about the new bride.
And that's why you think that she might have killed Willie?
Yeah. She's crazy.
All right, well, thank you for your time. Sorry about your ex-husband.
So you have to kind of disregard what she says about Tony, because she absolutely despises Tony. She broke up her marriage. But if Tony really did throw that rock, who knows what else she could be capable of?
Tony certainly fits the bill. I mean, if he's a womanizing drunk who picks fights with her kids, that's a motive to kill somebody.
True, but that wouldn't hold up in court without evidence. Plus, we're unaware of Willie's whereabouts for 90 minutes.
We know that Willie Jackson was stabbed after 9 o'clock, after he left work. He wasn't hurt at work.
There's a lot of possibilities of what might have happened. Between when he got off work and when he arrived home, he could have had an altercation with someone.
Or he could have gotten stabbed after he arrived home, and that also works.
Take this. Hello?
As this investigation is progressing, Detective Freeman got a phone call.
Hey, this is Jose Peralta from Garcia Fitness Center. We met the morning after Willie died.
Yes, of course.
The boss informs us that he spoke to a co-worker of Willie's who was working the night of Willie's death.
Remember how I told you Willie refereed a volleyball game that night? Well, I thought it was over around 9, but turns out it was a close game. It went really long.
Yeah?
My guy said Willie didn't leave the gym until 10:05.
Really? Okay, hey, thanks very much. So? So it turns out Willie left work at 10, which means he went straight home.
So there is no other Mr. X or Miss X involved that's in the house, and who's in that house? Well, Tony and Malik certainly are.
But was it Willie's wife or stepson who had it out for him? For insight, Kenda and Freeman turned to a family friend.
Willie has a friend that he spent a lot of time with, is in the service with.
Thanks for coming in on such short notice.
I'm just really shook up about Willie.
He tells us that Willie has his issues. He likes to drink. He likes the ladies.
He certainly wasn't the greatest husband in the world, but he was a really good friend to me.
Did you know about the new marriage?
Oh yeah, me and my wife spent New Year's Eve with him and Tony last year. Despite the age difference, they really did seem like a good couple.
Has Willie mentioned to you about any issues at home?
He came to me seeking advice about his stepson.
raising a teenage boy at age 17 is not a simple process when you're not his father. And so Willie asked his friend for advice.
Kid is out of control. He doesn't want to go to work. He doesn't want to go to school. He brings his friends over all the hours of the day and night. And anytime we ask him to do anything, he just won't listen.
I think it's just a phase.
At that age, teenagers are going through all kinds of hormonal issues. He was probably just coming into manhood, just trying to find himself.
His friend explained to Willie that that's normal for a teenage boy that's been uprooted from his father, so he's going to be an angry young man.
When I say angry, I'm not exaggerating. I can see it in his eyes. He's going to snap one of these days.
You really mean that?
Dead serious. He's got it in for me.
I think Willie was afraid of him.
I'm afraid that Malik might turn violent?
Definitely.
Well, no. Is he capable of murder? Of course he is. He's a human.
You're thinking, when you first interviewed Malik at the scene that night, he didn't appear to be very upset.
Malik is an angry young man. He is physically superior in every way to his stepfather. And his stepfather had told his friend 3 days earlier he was afraid Malik was going to become violent.
Kenda wonders, did a fight between Willie and his stepson turn deadly? And did Tony help cover for her son?
We want to talk to Cornelius, his natural father, to find out about Malik as a person. Is he capable of violent behavior?
Hi, this is Lieutenant Kenda with the Colorado Springs Police Department. I'd like to ask you a few questions regarding the death of Willie Jackson. Is now a good time?
Sure, what can I do for you?
I said, so why is it that Malik is living with his mother and the late Willie Jackson and not with you?
Well, I recently retired from the Army and was looking for a job up here in Washington. Now, Malik was living with me then, but he was having problems in school.
What type of problems?
Kids picking on him, starting fights. He started cutting classes and his grades dropped. Thought the change of pace might do him some good, give him a fresh start.
He said, so I discussed it with my ex-wife, and she agreed she and her new husband, Willie, would deal with Malik.
And when did he move here to the Springs?
About 3 months ago, but things haven't gotten any better. The night Willie died, Tony actually called me, asking me what she should do about Malik.
Cornelius indicated that at that time, while he was on the phone with Tony, he heard Willie come home.
He was screaming at her. I heard her yell in the background for me to call 911.
And then the line went dead, and we called to have the police check on what's going on in that house. So we now know that Cornelius, in fact, was the person who made that first phone call.
I was really worried about Tony and my son. I mean, they had me freaking out.
Let me ask you this. Which do you think is more likely? That your ex-wife would be violent toward Willie? Or that your son would be violent protecting his mother?
I don't know. I don't want to think any of those things happen.
All right, well, I appreciate the help. Thank you.
With Tony and Malik equally good suspects, Kenda hatches a plan to tip the scales.
When we start to focus on one or two people, we'll again review the physical evidence, seeing if it gives us a better insight into what happened.
What's this all about?
Mrs. Jackson, we have a warrant to search the premises for further evidence.
What? What more could you possibly need?
Please step aside.
Well, right away, Tony's very defensive, like, we already told you everything that happened.
Luckily for Kenda, his crime scene technicians have something that can bring the truth to light.
Luminol is a chemical agent that crime scene investigators can spray at crime scenes. Essentially, it's a way to detect hidden blood or blood that's been cleaned up at a scene.
So we search this entire house. They spray the suspected areas where blood might be. It will cause the blood stain to fluoresce in the dark. It turns a weird blue-green color.
Is everybody ready?
Sure. Wow.
And we find blood all over this house. When humans die from bleeding to death, their blood can tell you the story of the death. All of it speaks to, look at this. This is why Willie Jackson is dead. When we began this investigation, we had a crime scene with very little blood. But after spraying luminol, there is blood all over this house. Without a doubt, this is where Willie Jackson was stabbed.
There's blood stains on the walls. There's blood stains on the doorknobs. There's blood stains on the floor. A lot more than the human eye would ever have seen.
And it's very obvious that this is a much bigger deal than we thought initially.
Looks like he was stabbed in the kitchen, near the phone.
And they made a huge effort to cover up the evidence. Must have taken them hours.
Investigators begin removing carpet and tiles to place into evidence.
You guys are wrecking my house.
Well, that's not our intention. We're just doing our jobs.
So she is coming unstuck. Now she's very, very worried and has a very, very guilty appearance.
What, you think me and my son did this?
I find it awfully strange that you said the only place you cleaned up blood was in this bedroom. And now we're finding it all over the house.
But my son had nothing to do with this.
Then who did?
I don't know.
Tony's very upset. You know, what are you looking for? Are you insinuating that I had something to do with this? That Malik maybe had something to do with this? And then she tells police he had nothing to do with it. Well, you might start thinking, okay, well, are you just trying to tell us something? Is this the truth coming out now?
We're looking at her, and she's unable to maintain eye contact. Her body language is a flight body language. She's a nervous wreck.
You sure you don't want to change your statement? Anything you want to add?
I already told you the truth.
I mean, it's pretty obvious to me, based on my own experience, that Tony's up to her neck in the death of her husband.
But Kenda still needs Tony to admit that. And he knows just how to coerce her into doing so.
Okay. Are you willing to take a polygraph to prove it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Fine. Come on down.
Okay, just have a seat for me right here.
She comes to the station, you know, all dressed and ready to go and seems very confident.
Have you ever done one of these before?
No.
It's okay. It's real simple.
But her personality starts to change. She starts getting a little bit fidgety.
To me, a polygraph in and by itself is not a scientific instrument. It's why they're not admissible in court. What is useful is if the person believes that that machine is going to say whether they're telling the truth or not and cause them to make a statement, then that is what is useful. That's why I always would offer polygraphs to people, not because I believed in what the machine said. I want to know what you say. I want to know if you think this machine is going to tell us what we already believe, and you're going to tell me I'm right.
Is that too tight?
You know, when you sit down in that chair and the polygraph test is about to start, that's when you maybe realize, wait a minute, maybe I'm not able to kind of lie my way through this.
Miss Jackson, are you okay?
Stop. I'm not gonna do this.
Just sit tight.
So the polygraphist went out and told Kenda, hey, she's not taking the test.
I stabbed him. I stabbed Willie. I was trying to defend myself.
It's okay. Just tell us what happened.
He came home from work that night already drunk. So drunk. I think he always has a few on his way home. All right, you should come see him.
Who you on the phone with?
Hold on. Willie, lower your voice. It's just Malik's dad.
Who the hell you think you are? Talking to me like that.
Willie, you drunk ass fool. Can't you see him on the phone?
They get into a pretty good argument. They're in a shoving match now.
Hello? Man, come get your wife and kids. I don't want them here no more.
I'm gonna call the cops if you don't stop. Cornelius, call the cops!
And he then rips the phone out of the wall, and he's pretty upset.
What the hell is wrong with you? He took off after that. I think he was scared that the police might actually show up, and of course they did. But by then, things had settled down, and Malik was still downstairs, so I thought things were okay.
Do you know where Willie went during that time period?
I have no idea.
Tony explains that after the police left, Willie eventually came out of hiding.
What? Are you trying to get me arrested?
Willie, I'm sick of this. It's the same thing every night.
Why don't you just leave then?
Yeah, okay, maybe I will.
Standing over her, he is choking her.
And she grabbed a steak knife.
He lets go of her, and as he walks away, she just poked him in the back of the leg.
That blade finds the only place in his back of his left thigh that would kill him. It is magic, or in the case of Willie Jackson, the worst possible luck.
He went to bed. I thought he'd sleep off the booze, so I started cleaning up before Malik came upstairs. I was so upset I didn't even know he was dying.
She never thought in her wildest dreams that, stabbing someone in the leg like that could cause their death.
In my opinion, I do not believe Tony had any intent to kill him. She wanted to hurt him, and that's not the same thing.
After reviewing the case, the DA concludes that Tony Jackson was acting in self-defense and declines to press murder charges.
She legitimately seemed to be telling the truth about being fearful for her life. He's choking her. He's highly intoxicated. Grabbing the knife was just kind of an instinctive thing. But I think she actually thought things could escalate to the point that she could possibly die that evening.
In my view, her crime was cleaning up blood, as she was ultimately charged with.
As a result of that, she was sentenced to 3 years of supervised probation.
What's sad about this is that Willie, had he not been so drunk and passed out, he maybe could have saved himself. If he realized, I'm bleeding really badly, maybe I can call for help myself.
In married couples, the possibility of tragedy coming from constant argument is immense. Your behavior drives your life, and your behavior can also end it very suddenly.
The headline lands like a hammer on glass. Bright, loud, shards everywhere. You read it once, twice, 3 times, and the words don't sit still. They tremble. They blur. Because if it's solved, why does the air feel colder? Like the city just remembered something it tried to forget. Wind cuts down Jungno like a quiet siren. Neon flickers. A crosswalk chirps for no one. And somewhere, behind a steel shutter painted with a smiling mascot, a key turns in a lock that should have stayed rusted, untouched, sealed by time. Midnight in Seoul. The city never sleeps, but it does hold its breath. Rain makes everything look new again, even old fear. You can smell wet concrete, gasoline, tteokbokki steam ghosting from a cart that's been pushed to the curb. A night bus sighs around the corner, empty seats glowing like aquarium glass. A phone rings in a room above a convenience store, an ancient tone, tinny and relentless until it dies into the hum. And there, tucked between a laundry's warm vent and the cold eye of a security camera, a memory waits. The case everyone thought would rot quietly in an archive box. The case nobody could stop thinking about when the lights were off. The one that taught the neighborhood to look away faster. They called it a mysterious disappearance. A student vanishes between the cram school and the subway. Half a block, 2 minutes. A gap that should be nothing, a gap that swallowed a person. Her name is whispered more than spoken now, as if the syllables themselves might set off the wrong kind of echo. She leaves behind a bag with a half-eaten energy bar, a bus card, a pen that writes in 3 colors, and a receipt that ends at 2107. The cashier remembers her smile. The camera does not. At 2108, the tape flickers and stutters into static. 10 seconds gone. 10 seconds erased by rain, by a loose wire, by something we can't prove and can't stop thinking about. In the alley, there's a poster board stapled with missing notices, rain-wrinkled, corners curling like fallen leaves, a face, a date, a promise of a reward that's more a prayer than a number. Lamps buzz. The ground shines. Somewhere a stray dog howls like it saw the end of a story no one else could see. Police arrive fast, then slow. Lines are drawn, statements taken. The corner mart clerk, the crossing guard, the taxi driver who swears he saw a yellow umbrella drifting along with no one beneath it. The CCTV across the street catches the tail of a shadow and the ghost of a sleeve. The frame smears. The lens cries a single tear and calls it water damage. On the 3rd day, a shoe is found by the river, white turned gray, laces knotted like a lost code. Not hers, they decide, but the image sticks. It sticks to the bridge, it sticks to the underside of clouds, it sticks to mothers who tell their daughters to walk in light and keep their keys like claws between their fingers. Headlines scream for a week, then soften into courtroom hush. Cold case, unanswered. No body, no confession, no witness who can point and say there, him now. The city moves on because cities do. Apartment blocks rise where lots once sat bare. A cafe opens where the cram school folded. A mural goes up on a brick wall, bright blues and golds and cranes lifting into a painted sky. You can stand there and pretend the cranes carry the decade away. But the parents keep a bedroom unchanged. They fold clean sheets that no one sleeps on. They keep her pencil cup just where she left it, pink eraser worn down to a nub. They make 2 bowls of soup and eat one. They leave the other on the table like an invitation, like a dare. Detective Han Ji-soo keeps the case file in the top drawer. Not because it's active. Not because anyone told her to. Because the hum of the city at 2 a.m. keeps bringing her back to the same page. The map with the little arrow. The grainy still of the corridor where time forgot to leave footprints. The rumor that a construction site night watchman saw a man carry something heavy wrapped in a blanket. The man moved away. The site is now a tower with mirrored windows that reflect only the present. Year after year, the board gets new pins and old dust. A tip arrives about a cab that never logged a fare. Another about a university acquaintance who skipped town 2 weeks later. There's the Chaebol air conspiracy theory, too big, too glossy, too convenient. There's the neighbor theory, too close, too cruel, too easy. In winter, a diver team drags a canal near an underpass where the water forgets it is shallow. They find shopping carts, a bicycle frame, a suitcase without a zipper, no story inside. In spring, an elderly woman swears she hears a ringtone at 3:13 a.m. every Thursday, that old default tone like a child whistling on a hill. They check the tower's maintenance logs. The sound exists only in her memory. Or in someone else's guilt. 5 years, 10, 15, the alleys change names, the bus routes turn, the market stalls are replaced with glass, and the last phone booth is hauled away with a shrug. The parents accept a ceremony without remains, flowers, paper cranes, a bow that hurts the spine, and then the world goes on being loud. Online, strangers argue. Sleuths carve the seconds into fragments. They count steps. They measure rain rates. They map the city like a circuit board. They find new ways to burn old hours. And then the headline returns like a storm that forgot it already rained here. Seoul 2002 cold case solved. The podcaster with the warm voice and the slow drum under the theme song says a new witness came forward. He says the midnight raid was unmarked and fast. He says the suspect was a security guard in another district, a man whose name tastes like rust when said aloud. He says a DNA hit, a hair caught in the back of a storage closet, matched something archived by accident in a lab that was supposed to shut down last winter. He says a voicemail surfaced from a dead number, a voice that could be hers, whispering, "Don't wait at the station," followed by 3 long breaths and a clatter like a coin on tile. He says it with the gravity of a late-night anchor delivering a war. You can hear the country lean closer to the speaker. Jisoo hears it too, sitting at her kitchen table with a chipped mug and the city rumbling through the window rail. She has learned that solved is a word that sells sleep. She has learned that sleep is cheap and truth is expensive. The raid did happen. The suspect does exist. He kept nights, wore a uniform that borrowed authority's shape, collected keys that did not belong to him. He lived alone in a building that smelled like wet rope and old paint. He bought a yellow umbrella once at a stall near a bus stop that doesn't exist anymore. He owns a box of cassette tapes with label glue gone brittle. There is a hair, long, dark, coated in dust so fine it turns to fog when light touches it. The lab reports a partial profile twisted like a knot that doesn't want to come loose. It's a hint, not a handshake. The voicemail is real, but phones were clumsy then, and tapes stretch like old stories. Technicians listen. They hear a station announcement that doesn't match the place she would have been. They hear a violin note outside the window that belongs to a busker who played a different block. They hear a coin tumble, but coins fall the same in every district. The witness is a janitor with a tremor in his right hand, and a past he says he'd like to forget. He says he saw the guard carry a bundle down a back stair. Heavy. Careful. Do you remember the color? He's asked. Gray, he says. Gray like rain. What direction did he go? Away, he says. Away where? Away and away. Memory is a room with mirrors. You see yourself trying to see and everything doubles. The podcaster posts an update. The guard has lawyered up. The internet convicts him by breakfast and pardons him by lunch. Someone finds an old forum post where a girl mentioned a man who stared too long at the snack aisle near closing. Someone else finds his schedule from a different campus, a shift that overlaps the time of the disappearance by 40 minutes, unless he left early. unless a friend checked the clock for him, unless there's a way time itself made room for what he needed to do. Jisoo walks the old path. Cram school shell, cafe, corner shop, subway stairs. The stairs are the same. Stairs don't forgive. She counts them because numbers don't lie. They just refuse to tell the whole story. The clerk at the present-day shop shrugs at the past. New owners, new shelves, old floor, a scuff near the gum rack shaped like a comma. Pause here, the floor says. Breathe. Listen. The city plays the same song on a different radio. She stops under a camera that watches the door like an unblinking god made of plastic and wire. Back then, the lens wept. Now it sees everything and nothing. She follows the rainfall of that night through the city's records. A transformer hiccuped at 2108. A delivery truck idled where it shouldn't. A taxi driver hit his horn 3 times and then wrote in his log that he didn't know why. She places these stones, one by one, to build a path across a river that drowned other people. She thinks about the word solved, how it lands, how it sells, how it moves money and microphones. If you say solved, sponsors call. If you say unsolved, parents call. She remembers the mother's hands making tea an hour after the worst sentence any language has to offer. Your daughter, missing. She remembers the way the father looked at the calendar like it had betrayed him, as if days themselves had conspired to hide her. She remembers promising nothing, because promise is a word that can break a bone when it snaps. The raid produces a box. Inside, employee badges from jobs he didn't keep. Ticket stubs to movies no one remembers seeing. A photograph of a crowd where no single face is in focus. A coin-sized charm with a crane carved into it, the same crane as the mural that went up across from the old cram school. Coincidence or confession, the city loves both. A receipt from 2002, a stall number that could place him near the alley that night if you believe stalls never change hands. The umbrella handle, lacquer chipped, a smear of something that used to be red or could be dust pressed by decades. The lab says, not excluded in a font that might as well be a shrug. He says nothing. He blinks. He drinks from a paper cup. He asks for his jacket when the aircon kicks too hard. He looks like any man you pass on the street and never remember. He is a shape you can pour any fear into. You can call him monster, and the word will fit for a while, until it doesn't. Jisoo sits in the interview room and lets the silence ripen. Silence can be more honest than talk. He touches the table's edge, tracing the groove where others before him have pressed and worried and waited. She shows him the shoe photo. Not hers, she knows. She shows him the umbrella. He shrugs. She plays the voicemail. His eyes close like someone turned down a dimmer. He says he likes violins. He says a coin can fall anywhere. He says he never worked that block, not on that night, not ever, unless time itself is lying. She asks him why the janitor would say otherwise. He says everyone wants to be part of a story. He says he understands. He says nothing else. Outside, the podcaster posts again. Updates spread like spilled ink. Solved stays in the headline because it's sticky and bright. Comment sections tilt into war. Someone brings flowers to the mural. Someone else brings a camera. The parents sit at their table and look at the second bowl of soup as if it might steam again. The city blinks and keeps moving. But under the glass, under the cameras, under the headlines that make everything look sharp enough to cut, there's a seam that will not close. A 10-second blur on a tape that turned to snow at the hour it mattered. A staircase that counts differently when you're afraid. A rain that wiped footprints and gave nothing back. Seoul 2002 cold case solved, they say. And still, when you walk past that corner at night, the wind sounds like a question. The morning after the raid feels too bright, like the sun is overcorrecting for a long power outage. Headlines lean into certainty. Anchors talk about closure with the confidence of people who have never stood on a curb holding a photograph that won't answer back. The word solved keeps glowing in the corner of every screen like an exit sign that might be painted on a wall instead of leading anywhere. Jisoo shuts her TV off and listens to the apartment settle. A kettle ticks, pipes knock. Somewhere above, a chair scrapes and someone laughs, and the laugh sounds like a hinge that needs oil. She takes the file from the drawer and spreads it like a map you only open on roads you're not supposed to drive. The receipt with the timestamp. The camera still at 2107, crisp enough to count the reflections in a plastic lid. The smear of static at 2108, fuzz like snowfall inside a locked room. She writes the same line she has written before in a margin that has grown tired of ink. Who wanted those 10 seconds? Not what happened. Who wanted them? The suspect sits in a holding room that smells like lemon cleaner and night shift. He breathes through his mouth when he's thinking and through his nose when he's lying, a pattern she wishes weren't real because it tempts belief. His eyes are tired but not desperate. He folds and unfolds a paper cup like he's teaching it patience. His jacket hangs on the chair back like the ghost of a man who can go home whenever he wants. A lawyer arrives with a polite smile and an old briefcase that remembers other men, other nights, other coins that fell on other tiles. No answers today, no confessions, no clean lines drawn in the dust. Outside, the podcaster carries a mic down a market street and asks for memory like it's a fruit you can buy by the kilo. Voices bloom. Everyone knows something. Everyone knows someone who knows something. A taxi driver remembers a yellow umbrella. A florist remembers selling white chrysanthemums to a young man who didn't know how to say the word condolence. A retired cop remembers a tip that was never logged because it came in on a phone that belonged to a desk that belonged to a unit that doesn't exist anymore. Memory moves like fog over the river. You can point at it, but you can't keep it. The parents step into daylight because cameras dragged it to their door. The mother's hands find each other and stay there, a small knot trying to hold a whole world. The father's voice is steady until the syllables of her name lean too hard on his ribs. Solved, the questions say, as if the word is a blanket you can throw over a shape and suddenly the shape doesn't look like a person you loved. What is solved, the father asks, if we don't know where she went? Patrol units circle the old neighborhood again because rituals matter, even when evidence doesn't cooperate. The alley smells like ginger and new paint. The mural birds are still lifting into their blue, necks long, wings easy. Under them, chalk marks appear overnight, arrows and initials and rings like halos or crosshairs depending on what you've lost. A street preacher talks about judgment, and a tech student talks about metadata, and an old woman talks about dreams where rain runs backward. The corner shopkeeper is new, but the floor scuff near the gum rack is old, and now it looks like a question mark with a broken spine. Jisoo stands at the curb and lets taxis wash by until a memory surfaces. Not hers, not anyone's, just the city's. A delivery truck idled near the mouth of the alley that night, exhaust folding into the rain like gray silk. She finds the company in the motor vehicle registry, a name that changed 3 times since 2002, each time like a snake shedding a business card. The warehouse moved to the edges of the city where buildings look like boxes stacked by a tired child. Inside, a manager with permanent squint lines squints some more at a request for old logs. He shrugs at 2002 like it's myth. Paper went to mold. Hard drives went to scrap. He remembers maybe an old driver who kept a notebook in a shirt pocket and wrote down everything from gas prices to the smell of storm drains. The driver is retired now, his hands marked by the city's steering wheel, his knuckles like small boulders. He sits on a park bench and feeds birds crumbs that look like the pieces detectives always ask him to hold up to the light. He didn't drive that route on that night, he says. He swears by his grandson's name. Then he pauses. There was a trainee, a kid who got lost when the sky turned to tin and the roads were all shine. The trainee borrowed his truck while he took a bathroom break that ran long because age is a thief that steals minutes. He came back, the kid was gone 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. He shrugged then. It was rain. Everyone was slow in the rain. He shrugs now. It's been decades. But a detail sticks. The trainee whistled badly. One note always flat, like someone stepping wrong on a staircase that doesn't forgive. Bad violin, the driver says, like the busker near Hongdae. The voicemail had a violin. The city inhales. A building's renovation permit surfaces in a database that only opens if you ask it in the right tone. The building sits exactly where the voicemail station announcement doesn't make sense to be heard from. But renovations mean scaffolding, and scaffolding means metal shapes bending sound into corridors you didn't plan for. The engineer on the permit signs his name with his left hand. The suspect is left-handed, the internet says, as if left is a verdict. The engineer died in 2011, a heart that stopped between one step and the next. His files gather dust in a box that keeps company with a humidifier and a broken desk fan. His widow pours tea and lets the steam do the talking, while her eyes decide if you're a person who deserves her grief. She finds a notebook, graph paper, lines so neat you want to salute. A sketch of that block in 2002 with arrows for wind and marks for echo, and a note, stairwell acts like horn. A horn could make a station announcement travel half a block and step into a voicemail that wasn't meant to hold it. Solved becomes less certain. A forensics tech with a coffee addiction and a habit of humming lullabies tests the hair again, not because science has changed that much, but because faith in repetition is a kind of work. She coaxes more from it than before. Mitochondrial line, not unique, not nothing. She asks the mother for a sample. The ask is a room that goes quiet on the hour. The mother says yes like a person who's been saying yes to pain in more polite clothes for years. The lab prints a result that is both sharp and soft, like a knife wrapped in felt, consistent with, not exclusive to. The word maybe does a slow dance with the word almost, and invites the word solved to watch from a polite distance. The janitor, the witness with the tremor, calls after midnight, breath like a paper bag. He is tired of being a lighthouse in someone else's storm. He says he saw the bundle because he wanted to see the bundle. He says he wanted his life to matter more than mop water and toothless clocks. He says he is sorry. He says he could still be right. He hangs up before sorry gets to grow roots. Rumors multiply like alley cats. The suspect once donated to a missing persons fund. The suspect once drove a lost child home. The suspect once stood at a bus stop in a storm and didn't have an umbrella and looked at another person's umbrella like he had a prayer on a leash. He sits in the room and asks if he can call his sister. The lawyer nods. He talks softly in broken phrases. He says the word temple 3 times in a row. After the call, he asks for his jacket again. He says the air is cold. The air is always cold in rooms where truth is supposed to set, like concrete that never quite cures. Jisoo walks the rail line under a sky that can't pick a color. She counts the advertising light boxes and reads the spaces between them, like a child reads the spaces between words when the words are too heavy. She thinks about the receipt. She thinks about the umbrella. She thinks about time carving a groove through people's lives and how some grooves are rivers and some are chains. She finds the vendor whose stall number lives on a receipt that smells like old rain. The vendor's daughter runs the stall now and sells umbrellas that pop like flowers and fold like secrets. Her ledger is digital, but her mother kept a paper book for luck, each entry a small square of history with pencil ghosts in the margins. She brings it out like a priest brings out a relic. There it is. The sale. A yellow umbrella. The price circled twice like an omen. A signature that is not a name but an initial, L or J, or a mark you make when your hand wants to finish before your head. Left-leaning slant. Ink bloomed by rain, not proof, a thread. Threads make ropes if you twist enough of them with enough patience and enough need. The vendor says something else. The man with the yellow umbrella didn't come alone. He stood beside a woman who didn't buy anything and looked at the sky like she was judging its honesty. Did she speak? Jisoo asks. The vendor's daughter is careful with her yes. A word about exams, a word about buses. A thank you too formal for a marketplace. We carry ghosts in the spaces between our syllables. Another file turns up that doesn't know it's supposed to be lost. Not police. Cable maintenance. A transformer had burped at 2108 because humidity is a thief with soft feet. A log shows which blocks hiccuped and which cameras blinked long enough to carve 10 seconds out of a night that needed them. The alley's camera was one of them. Not sabotage, the engineer would say, if he were here, and not graphite on graph paper. Not malice. The city itself looking away because machines are our mirrors and mirrors are faithful to our habits. The internet hates this. Evil is more interesting than moisture. Narrative is hungrier than chance. The podcaster lowers his voice and lets the piano undercurrent throb like a vein. He says words like chilling and deliberate and almost and finally. He is not wrong to be dramatic. Drama is how we pay attention to what hurts. But a parent hears finally and wonders if it means the door will open and footsteps will cross the threshold. It does not. The parents move their second bowl of soup closer to the window as if steam could write messages on the glass. Jisoo's superior calls her into an office where the air smells like folders. Closure looks good on paper, he says. Sponsors like solved. The city likes solved. The chief likes press conferences where sentences end with periods instead of ellipses that last for years. We have a man. We have a hair. We have an umbrella that might as well be a confession if you tilt it right. We have a witness, even if he's tired of his own face in the mirror. We could be done. Could be, she repeats. He sighs. He closes the file gently, like you might close the eyes of something that still breathes. She walks out and doesn't close her eyes. The city refuses to be simple. Another file from 2004 murmurs from the archive like a cousin with the same scar. A student gone between school and train in a different district. A gap of minutes. A camera blink. A river found nothing but the suggestion of grief. The suspect worked nights near that district for 6 months in 2004. The internet highlights this line in fluorescent yellow and circles it with teeth. She digs. The pattern is not a pattern until it is. The umbrella vendor from that district sold blue that year because supply chains hiccuped and yellow was a rumor. The suspect took a leave that spring to care for a father who did not get better. The 2004 file grows quieter the longer you hold it, like a seashell that remembers a different ocean, but a detail won't stop knocking. A coin-sized charm with a crane shows up again, this time in a lost and found log at a subway kiosk that was dismantled in 2009. Found on a Thursday, turned in by a man with work-rough hands. The signature is neat, right-leaning, not the suspect's lazy left. The kiosk attendant wrote a note no one read in time. Man seemed nervous, kept looking at stairs. The charm sits in a drawer in a storage room that smells like ink and dust and oaths that aged into size. When Jisoo holds it, the metal is cool and the crane's wingtip is sharpened by years of pockets and storms. She thinks of the mural. She thinks of the coin sound on the voicemail. She thinks of the way grief throws its voice and makes puppets out of evidence until you forget where the hand is. Night. Another bus sighs around another corner. The city keeps its promise to never sleep and to always dream. Jisoo stands under a new camera that sees everything and nothing and listens to a violin that might be a train brake, might be a busker in a tunnel, might be a memory circling the block because it can't find a parking space. She calls the parents without a script. She says they can close the case in a way that will make the papers happy. She says they can keep it open in a way that will make sleep a joke. She says solved is a word that warms hands for a moment but doesn't light a room. The mother breathes like she is counting the steps of a staircase. The father says he will stand where he stood the first night, by the curb, under the broken lamp that is no longer broken. He says he will stand there and see if the wind sounds like loyalty or betrayal. She tells him the wind sounds like a question. He says questions keep people honest. She says questions keep people awake. The city turns another page and calls it a day. The headline keeps glowing. The room where the suspect sits keeps humming. The charm keeps its crane. The umbrella keeps its chip of red that might be rust and might be something else and might be a story we will never get to finish telling. Somewhere a phone rings in a room above a convenience store with a tone that went out of fashion before some of the officers in uniform were born. It rings and then stops like a thought you don't want to have, learns your name and decides to wait at the end of the hall. Rain returns like a rehearsal. Slow at first, then sure, tapping every awning in the old neighborhood as if checking alibis. The headline still glows in shop windows, reflected from TVs you can't hear, solved like a neon promise. People walk faster under umbrellas that bloom and fold like nervous thoughts. A violin tries a scale in the tunnel near the station. One note sours, steps on its own tail, then tries again. A coin lands somewhere hard, and the sound travels farther than it should, as if metal remembers a shortcut. Jisoo stands where the curb dips and the gutter fizzes. She watches water find the city's seams. 10 seconds, she thinks, and the rain seems to blink at the idea. Not unkind, just busy. Her phone is a steady drumbeat of updates she doesn't open. She lets the word solved drift past her like a leaflet pressed into her hand for a protest she didn't join. The suspect's jacket hangs in her mind. The paper cup. The way he said temple 3 times, as if the syllables could build a wall around him that she couldn't climb. The temple is old enough to make the city look like a new haircut around a wise skull. Stone steps, lanterns like patient stars, pine resin in the air, the clean kind of sweetness that makes you remember every time you were ever forgiven. Shoes pile at the entrance in polite rows. A monk with soft eyes and a voice that seems to know about rain before it falls offers tea that tastes like a porch during summer. She asks about charms, cranes, metal, the kind you carry for luck or to hold fear by the throat. He nods. The gift shop used to sell them years ago, small and bright, wingtips sharp, the metal sound like a bell if you drop one on stone. They stopped around 2005 when a new supplier came with cheaper shapes that felt wrong in the hand. He brings out a ledger with neat lines and dates like steady breaths. 2002 glides by. Bulk orders for school fundraisers, boxes sent to cram schools to sell for field trip money, boxes sold at a subway kiosk by volunteers with kind smiles and tired feet, cranes everywhere, small silver birds hidden in hundreds of pockets like a flock nobody noticed at the time. A charm isn't proof, it is a thread. Threads can lie, threads can sing. She asks if the suspect ever came here. The monk shrugs with compassion. So many shoes, he says, and his eyes fold around the memory of 1,000 faces that could be him. The donation boxes at the temple are wooden, not the metal that rings like the coin on the voicemail. But there are metal railings on the stairs, and the peal of the courtyard bell echoes into the tunnel on certain days when the wind is a conspirator. Sound is a smuggler. It trespasses where you tell it not to go. The suspect's sister lets them in with a look that says, "Please do not break what little we have left." A tidy apartment, plants that lean toward the window like they know secrets. She makes barley tea and sets the cups on coasters with worn cranes. She says her brother collected keys because keys felt like a promise of order in a world that threw stones for sport. He once washed the same jacket 3 times in one night because the air clung to it wrong. He went to the temple not to pray, she says, but to be around quiet people. He is left-handed and cries at nature documentaries and eats standing up when no one's looking. He used to whistle badly. She imitates the flat note and the room feels briefly like a tunnel with a violin that can't find its footing. Did he work near the cram school that year, Jisoo asks. Sometimes here, sometimes there, the sister says. Their father got sick. Schedules bent. She remembers nights he came home smelling like paint and damp concrete. She remembers a yellow umbrella that he said turned inside out on Sejongdairo, and he cursed in a way that sounded like a prayer backwards. She remembers a box of cassette tapes labeled like a librarian's dream in a boy's hiding place. Rain, 1840, Rain 2108, Tunnel 3, Horn Stair, Coin. He used to record city sounds. He said they calmed him, as if chaos could be tamed by catching it in a spool. The tapes sit in a plastic bin under the bed, dust like talc, cases cracked at the corners, a cheap player with a smile sticker peeling off. She clicks, and the room takes a breath it didn't know it was holding. Rain enters first, soft, then serious, the kind that draws a gray curtain across the mouth of an alley. A station announcement ghosts through, words wrapped in the dry echo you get when a voice bounces off a staircase that narrows as it climbs. A violin thread drifts past like a kite trying to remember how to be a bird. Then a coin, the same shiver, the same impatient stop. She checks the tape's paper label, 2002. The handwriting leans left, the ink blotted by, yes, Rain. Could he have recorded the voicemail's background by accident and someone else captured her voice and the city braided the two into a rope we all grabbed? Could he have recorded the voicemail on purpose, stitching the city's sounds to a terror he did not own, or did own, or wanted to own, because men who hold keys often crave the feeling of doors? The player whirs, the tape stops, the room hums with the fridge and the soft sigh of a plant leaf touching glass. The sister says he liked to catalog. He labeled the world to stop it from drowning him. He did not label people. Chain of custody is a phrase that tastes like pennies. The DNA hair came from a storage closet in a campus he kept. The lab that handled it is now a ghost, absorbed, retired, moved. A set of rooms that smell like the end of a story with a clerical error. An old technician meets Jisoo at a coffee shop that used to be a photo lab. The smell of fixer is gone, but the walls remember it. The technician's hands shake because hands that handled tweezers for decades forget how to be still when they have no tweezers to hold. She says the room was humid in summer and the dehumidifier wheezed like a man who never ran until one day he tried and failed. We were careful, she says. We were also human. A hair can be a gift or a trick. Air moves, jackets shed. Cataloging takes time and time steals corners when you look away. The label on the hair tube was written by an intern who moved to Canada before she could teach him to loop his G's clean. Reagents age, freezers cough. If you want a certainty that can carry a city, you need a chain made of better metal than we had. I am not saying it is wrong. I am saying solved is a loud word for our small rooms. The podcaster drops a bonus episode like a thunderclap, and the market hums as vendors replay it in squares where fruit stacks like treasure. He lowers his voice at the tape labels and the coin and the sister's plants that lean toward light. He says the suspect is an archivist of Rain and asks what kind of man catalogs puddles unless he wants to remember exactly where he left one. He asks if sound is an alibi or a confession. The city turns toward the mic like it is a heater in winter. At the mural, candles gather. Cranes folded by careful fingers return to the wall in paper form, taped in rows, a flock trying to take off. The parents come when they are asked, because grief has made them generous with their time. They stand under the painted birds and breathe as strangers call the daughter's name with voices that have never known her tea, her laugh, the way she said thank you like a tiny bow. Someone plays a violin. The flat note shows up like an old neighbor. Coins clink into a donation jar. The sound runs along the brick and hides under the arch where the alley tightens. And for a second, the voicemail is here, in public, domesticated, a trick dog doing what it learned for treats. Jisoo watches the way sound can be trained to impersonate memory, then watches memory turn around and ask sound for ID. A delivery trainee from that year is found and appears older than his bones. He remembers rain that made the city look like black glass. He remembers being lost near a scaffolded stairwell where men laughed and a radio tried to sing in the wrong key. He remembers a guard in a yellow umbrella directing him to a loading bay with a finger that did not shake. He remembers a rolled carpet in a hallway because every building has a rolled carpet in a hallway. That is how buildings are. That is how our minds stock the shelves. Did you see a bundle, she asks. I saw weight, he says. Weight is a bundle with its coat off. I saw a man who knew where he was going and a kid who didn't. He was not cruel. He was efficient. Efficiency is a cousin to cruelty when you turn it sideways. Soundwalks begin. Engineers and artists and detectives move through the neighborhood with microphones and maps like they are catching ghosts with nets made of math. They find the horn stair. They find the way rain turns a rail into a bell. They find that 2108 on that night in that year. could have been the exact moment a transformer coughed and the city blinked and the tape cried snow. They try the coin on tile, on metal, on concrete wet enough to shine. They layer the noises like a cake that doesn't want to rise, and then at last it does. The voicemail's background is reproducible as a recipe, which means it is possible everywhere, which means it is proof of nothing but the way cities sing. The superior wants the camera lights because they warm cheeks in official portraits. He says we have enough, meaning not enough for truth, but enough for public satisfaction. We have the man who kept nights. We have a hair that cannot be dismissed without insulting the lab's ghost. We have a tape that writes the city in his hand. We have a coin that refuses to stop ringing. We can hold a conference. We can hand the word closure to people who need to sleep. We can respect the budget. She says the budget does not bury the dead. He says neither does stubbornness. A storage unit appears in a column of a spreadsheet that thought it had already revealed what it held. A locker rented in 2002 under a name that might be a spelling error or a joke. Paid in cash in 3-month bursts. Accessed at strange hours that feel like the city's insomnia. They cut the lock and the door sticks like it has decided to be a wall. Inside, stacked boxes with the smell of late-night paint, employee badges, movie stubs, a journal of weather written in block letters, umbrellas with ribs like pressed birds, a cardboard tray of cassette shells with labels in that same left-blooming hand, a 3-color pen, the kind 1,000-cram school kids click through exams, the ink red worn down to a knife tip, a coin dish with a crane charm at the bottom, wing sharpened, beak dulled, a jacket with a lining that whispers when you shake it, the whisper of dust, not secrets. There is also a note. Not a confession, a map to sounds, arrows to places where stairwells behave badly, a corridor marked horn, a tunnel marked violin, a square of tile circled where the coin lands and refuses to be ordinary. On one page, a date, the night of the disappearance. Next to it, nothing but a line that descends, a sketch of rain, the kind of drawing a man makes when he wants the page to be the thing he cannot control. Is this obsession or guilt? Is obsession with a city's noise a way to hold loneliness by the lapels and tell it to stop moving? Is guilt the urge to record because if you can play it back, you can pretend it returns what it took? The suspect's lawyer says none of this is proof. He is correct. Proof is a dead man's confidence. The parents stand in the unit doorway, and the air fills with the dust of other people's boxed lives. The mother looks at the pen like it might cough up an essay her daughter never got to write. The father touches the jacket's sleeve and pulls his hand back like fabric just taught him a new pain. Night finds the detective on the same curb. The mural birds tilt their painted heads. The chalk arrows have washed out, but the chalk memory doesn't. The podcaster posts a photo of the storage unit and calls it a shrine. He gets the likes he went fishing for. A bus exhales. A cat springs from shadow to shadow like a rumor you don't want but cannot stop repeating. Jisoo thinks about how words grow antlers online. She thinks about rain that refuses to wash one thing clean while it polishes everything else. She thinks about the sisters' plants leaning toward light, and how they do it without asking anyone's permission. She calls the parents, because asking permission is her small rebellion. She tells them what was found. She tells them what was not. She says the word solved and then steps on it immediately with a softer word, maybe. She says the city will likely put a period where she would prefer an ellipsis. She says there are people who will sleep better if a man is named and pinned to a board. She says their daughter deserves more than other people's sleep. The mother laughs once, a sound like a cup put down too fast on a table that forgive but remembers the ring. The father asks if he can stand at the curb again, not because it changes the dead, but because it changes the living. The violin in the tunnel tries the note again, and this time it lands right, clean, true. For a second, the city is in tune with itself, and then a coin falls, and the world resumes being the complicated music it prefers. She closes her eyes and sees the 10 seconds of snow, the way static eats a face and returns a ghost. She opens them and sees only a crosswalk, a bus stop, a world that never needed her to be sure, just to keep looking. She keeps looking. The word solved hums at the edge of her hearing like a fluorescent light that needs a new ballast. She decides not to change it yet. She decides to stand under it until her eyes adjust or the bulb dies. The wind slips down the alley and asks its question again, more patient this time, as if it knows answers are shy and only come out when you stop demanding them. The city holds its breath again, but this time it feels deliberate, like it's listening for a note that keeps slipping just out of tune. Morning threads through blinds and turns dust into glitter no one asked for. Jisoo sits with the storage unit inventory spread across her kitchen table like tarot. The jacket, the umbrellas, the journal of weather written in those neat block letters, every line a small attempt at control. The cassettes labeled like spells. She clicks the cheap player and the machine clears its throat, tape catching, wheels pushing past friction the way a memory pushes past denial. Rain arrives in miniature. Footsteps drag. Far off, a chime that might be a shop door, might be a rail. She closes her eyes and lets the room fall away until there is only hiss and the small mathematics of echo. The coin lands again. Same shimmer, same impatient stop. She rewinds 5 seconds, plays it twice. The coin is a hammer on glass. The echo is a fingerprint. She picks up her phone and calls Min-hee, the sound tech who never met a hiss she couldn't measure. Bring your ears and your stubbornness, she says. Bring coffee, bring a ruler for ghosts. The lab is a room of soft light and cables coiled like sleeping snakes. Min-hee plugs the player into a hungry chain of boxes and transforms the rain into waves on a screen. Frequencies comb upward in fine hairlines. Hums stack. She points. There. A 60-cycle heartbeat with a wobble riding it at 1.2 hertz. A ventilation fan with an old bearing, she says. Voice gone gentle, the way it gets when she loves a problem. She pulls an overlay file from a case she did on a different station years ago. Fan signatures that memorize a place better than tourists do. The wobble should be there, she says, if this stairwell was the stairwell. She finds city maintenance logs the way some people find old friends, fast and with good luck. In 2002, the fan near the cram school alley ran hot and crooked. Everyone complained about the buzz. On the tape labeled Rain 2108, the wobble doesn't wobble. The fan is clean. Clean means new, or elsewhere, or a liar. It could have been recorded another night, Min-hee offers, eyes on the waveform like she's reading palms. It could have been recorded in a different stairwell that sings the same song but not the same harmony. Jisoo thinks of the suspect's map to sounds, the arrows, the names, horn, violin, coin, a collector's mind, an archivist's itch. She feels relief flash like a bad idea. If the tape isn't that stairwell at that hour, maybe he didn't stand where the city wants him to have stood. Relief is a trap with good manners. She bites it back. If the tape isn't that stairwell at that hour, why is it labeled like it is? That's a different kind of weight. They take the waveform to the tunnel anyway because sometimes the body knows what the mind refuses to name. The tunnel smells like damp newspaper and forgotten plans. A busker tries a new melody and lands on the old mistake, the flat step that makes your spine want to correct the world. The ventilation fan above them hums with that tired wobble, beat, beat, waver, a signature scrawled in air. Min-hee records and lays the two songs on top of each other. The difference is a thin blade. You could cut bread with it, not much more, enough for a doubt, not enough for a verdict. They walk the block, and the block answers in coins and breaks and pigeons that can't keep their feet to themselves. Sound is a smuggler. It carries possibilities like contraband in its coat. An old clipboard in a glass-walled office remembers a year no one visits. The station's back hall keeps paper like a shrine. Under a stack of new forms, a brittle sheet lists a maintenance bypass at 2106 to 2119 on a Thursday in summer. The fan down, the air moving differently, the world's hum changing key. The date matches. The handwriting slopes right. KJ initials. A number for a supervisor whose line now belongs to a pizza place that answers on the second ring and offers a lunch special like Salvation. The bypass means the fan wobble should be absent exactly then. That would make the suspect's tape truthful. The relief returns and bangs on the door, but another note crowds in. A bypass shifts echoes. It makes corridors shorter or longer by tricks you can't see. It sends station announcements further than usual, into places they don't belong, into voicemails that will one day become a nation's lullaby for dread. True and useless, Min-hee says softly, and draws a box around the time window as if to keep it from running off. KJ sells screws now from a stall tucked under a bridge where pigeons hold their own committee. He wears a hat that says "World's Okayest Uncle," and the joke fits him like a shrug. He squints at the date and says that night was a storm that tasted like a battery on your tongue. He turned the fan off because it screamed, and the night crew called him names he deserved. He remembers a young woman on the landing asking if the bus to the river still ran after 10. He pointed with an oily hand and apologized for the noise, and she smiled the way tired students smile, like they're borrowing joy on credit. He remembers a man with a yellow umbrella, because umbrellas were turning inside out along the street and this one held. The man did not speak. He waited as if waiting was a job. KJ flips the page and finds nothing else to give. He wishes he were more cinematic. He wishes he could tell her that the world makes sense if you look from the right angle. He knows better and offers a bag of screws she doesn't need instead. Back at the unit, the cassettes sit like beetles, shiny and patient. She doesn't trust paper any more than she trusts rain. Paper lies politely. It lies with curves. She takes the suspect's map journal and lays thin plastic over a page where ink scored too hard and left ruts. Graphite blooms under her pencil like an old photograph developing in a tray. Lines surface. Arrows. A note on the edge that did not belong to this page at all, a bleed from the next sheet. 421, 102, 701. Staccato, 3 numbers, then a dash, then 13. Bus routes. The old city swallowed bus lines whole and spit them back with new names, but numbers haunt longer than names. Route 421 then ran a spine behind the cram schools like a reliable rumor. 102 stitched the market to the river. 701 skimmed the temple's foot and dove into tunnels like a swallow. 13 sits there like a raised eyebrow. A minute count, a code, a habit. She puts the overlay down and her pencil rests where the dash is. It now looks like a wound. The victim's bus card had been in her bag, useless as a wish in a pocket. The bag never left the scene. She did. If she missed the train, she might have meant to take the bus, but the tool to pay for it was in a pouch that smelled like gum and graphite and whatever fragrance lives on a teenager's fingers after study. In 2002, there were cash boxes too, drivers with envelopes of coins, riders who told the system they were exceptions. 13 minutes between alley and stop. Or 13 seconds carved out where a camera blinked and a city didn't blink with it. She calls transit archives, and a man with the voice of a bellhop from a black and white film tells her that yes, there were ledgers once, and yes, some survived, and yes, they are in a metal cabinet that screams when you open it and no one opens it because it screams. The ledgers live in a windowless room where afternoons go to nap. Pages fat with pencil dust. Drivers recorded cash fares with bored precision, first initial and last 2 digits of time and the sorrow of exact change. On that night, on that route, 13 minutes after the hour, a fare paid in coins clinked and was marked as M, rider female, short hair, blue backpack. Blue because drivers see color like a threat or a promise and mark it down as insurance. The victim's backpack was red. The city wants to be helpful and misses. The ledger gives them a ghost, who is almost her and not her at all. The driver who wrote that line is dead now. His notes are the only part of him that still speak in this building. They say a woman boarded. They do not say if she went home. At the mural, the podcaster announces a live stream because grief plus spectacle equals a number with commas. He drapes his voice in velvet and tells the city it is brave. He frames candles so they burn brighter on phones. He says we are almost there, and the comments flood with hearts and knives because that is how we love in public now. A teenager in a puffy jacket plays the violin and misses the bad note on purpose. A family inside a city, inside a story, trying to control which way the ache goes. The parents hold hands and let the camera claim what it can. Afterwards, the mother wipes wax off the railing with a tissue and says nothing to anyone because there's nothing left that words can lift. Jisoo steps away from the light and into the seam where the laundry vent warms the night. Watch your step, she says to herself, the way you do when you pretend you're talking to someone else. The expansion joint between buildings is a dark throat. Renovations in the years since have padded edges and hidden teeth, but gaps remember. She peers with a flashlight, and dust answers, dancing like it has its own music. Something small glints. She reaches with a long tong and brings back a thin disc of metal with the patience of old coins. Not a crane charm, a washer. But on its face a smear of lacquer, red gone to brown, the exact cheap paint that chips from umbrella handles. This city could build a museum of near misses. She bags it anyway. Evidence is a mosaic. Useless pieces fill holes the useful ones leave behind. Her superior calls because it is his job to be the room where pressure lives. Press conference tomorrow, he says, and uses a tone that hopes she will treat the word tomorrow like a negotiation. He wants to list the boxes found and the tapes labeled and the hair that says, consistent with like a polite nod. He wants sponsors to smile and the mayor to stand on steps and the reporters to close their notebooks, satisfied that the winter will be quieter now. She says the winter is rude and does what it wants. He says the public is tired. She tells him the public is tired of being lied to, not of being told it may take another month to say something that won't rot by spring. He sighs in that fatherly way men in offices sigh when they want to make you feel like you've missed the point. She hangs up before the shape of the sigh becomes a wall. Night again. A bus sighs around a corner like it keeps a promise. She rides it because the body has to test ideas on pavement. Route 421 is gone in name but alive in nerve. The modern line hugs the old path like a child tracing a parent's hand. The stops flash by. Market, crane wall, temple edge, tunnel mouth. She times the distance with a thumb on a phone stopwatch, and the seconds do not lie. They refuse to explain, but they do not lie. 13 minutes is a wish. 10 seconds is a theft. Between them is the room where monsters could live or not live at all. She gets off at a stop that used to be named something else and stands in the drizzle that has returned to collect what it left behind. The shelter has a bench polished by waiting. Under it, scratched with a key or a coin, a tiny crane shape, 2 lines in a triangle. The city is full of cranes. Children draw birds where they want flight. She wishes she were the kind of person who could call this a sign. She takes a picture and lets it be nothing until it needs to be something. The suspect's sister texts late, a photo of the tape bin now sitting on her floor like a small, obedient dog. There's one unlabeled cassette stuck under the lip, she writes. I think it fell there years ago. She sends a picture, no date, no ink, only scuffs. Jisoo feels that small snap in the chest that says now. She drives through a city that yawns and changes traffic lights for its own amusement. The sister hands her the cassette like it might bite. They feed it to the hungry chain in Min-hee's room because patience, yes, but also the hour is a thief too. Silence at first, then a cough, then a voice, not the suspect's, higher, quicker, testing 1, 2 in a whisper that wants to be a shout, and then a sentence spoken like you speak to a cat or a child or yourself, keep to the light. The station announcement rolls in over it, exact words that match a public safety campaign from that summer, recorded by a voice actor who lent the city her warmth. The voice on the tape mimics it almost, then stops and laughs once, short, embarrassed. It is not the victim. It is not proof. But it is practice. Someone rehearsed the city, someone rehearsed the warning, someone stood near a stairwell and impersonated safety. Min-hee leans in. The fan wobble is absent. The bypass again. She layers nights. She layers ghosts. A clank. A metal door. No, a gate. The old style on the east entrance that used to slam and sing a particular B-flat when angry. She pulls an archival field recording from a city promo where some earnest intern loved ambience too much. The B-flat aligns. East entrance, she says. Not the cram school side. The opposite mouth. The opposite sight line. The opposite cameras. The opposite cameras didn't fail. They caught 13 minutes of rain and 100 faces that grew older and a handful that didn't. She drags up the footage, digitized years later by a contractor who labeled everything with creative contempt. The timestamp turns to snow for 3 seconds somewhere else, but not at 21:08. At 21:12, a busker in a baseball cap appears, with a case that looks heavier than music. He is right-handed. He signs a permit form at a kiosk 2 days later with a neat right-leaning hand. The same hand that turned in a crane charm in 2004, nervous, eyes for the stairs, signature like a schoolbook. His name is nothing. Everyone is named like this. He plays badly. Everyone plays badly at first. He lives then in a dorm above a shuttered arcade. He leaves in 2005, and a ledger says Japan in a note someone added later with a question mark. He exists the way smoke exists after candles. Possible, suggestive, hard to hold. She goes to the arcade anyway because the body must. The landlord is a man made entirely of keys and opinions. He remembers the busker as polite, the way quiet men are praised for existing without inconvenience. He remembers a rolled carpet in the hall that tripped delivery kids until he threw it away. He remembers when she shows him the photo of the crowd from the storage unit, that the arcade's mirror always captured the street like a bonus world, and that once a week, someone in a yellow umbrella would stop to fix their hair in it, as if rain made them vain. Coincidence is a neighbor who borrows sugar and never returns the bowl. She listens, she writes, she lets the moments stand without asking them to become more muscular than they are. The parents visit the unit because pain wants to map itself to square footage. They do not touch anything. The mother looks at the cassette shells like eggs. The father reads the weather journal as if it could tell him how to dress for the next part of his life. The sister waters her plants and says nothing, which is sometimes the most generous thing anyone can do. Jisoo walks them out into a night that hums and wavers and threatens to rain again. The father asks her what she believes. She says belief is a coat she puts on when the wind gets mean. It isn't truth, but it keeps you standing. He nods like a man who knows coats. Back in the interview room, the suspect asks for his jacket because the air bites. He holds the paper cup and doesn't fold it this time. She tells him about the tape with the voice that practiced a warning, the B-flat at the east gate, the fan that slept for 13 minutes while the city did not. He listens as if listening is a test he intends to pass. He says he recorded sounds because sounds made sense. He says he labeled because time makes jokes and labels are how you tell the prankster you see him. He says left-handed like an apology. He says temple like a bandage. He says he doesn't know the busker. He says he knows the B-flat because gates sing when they are old and sad. He says coins fall everywhere. He says he is tired. He looks like a man who could be any man. He looks like a man who could have been the one. He looks like both until your eyes hurt. The podcaster posts again because the night keeps giving him chapters. He says, new tape, new gate, new lead. He says, almost like a drum. He says, solved with a question mark this time because even velvet voices learn manners around certain kinds of doubt. The comments soldier into war again. People choose sides as if sleep were a team sport. Someone posts a clip of the station safety announcement from 2002, the one with the warm voice telling you to keep to the light and mind the stairs, and someone else posts the laughing practice voice from the tape, and the difference is small and human and terrifying. The city goes quiet on the thread for 3 breaths, and then 10,000 thumbs rediscover how to point. Jisoo stands at the east entrance under a sign whose font has not aged well. The gate still sings, though softer. Rain taps out a code on the metal awning and no one has the key for it. She tries the walk again. Alley, cram school, convenience store, laundry vent warm as a breath, cross to the opposite mouth. The minutes stack, the seconds stand and refuse to be dismissed. She stops where the camera never failed, where faces remained faces, and looks at the space between moments. Every city is a ladder with missing rungs. We live by learning which gaps we can jump. She feels the wind arrive with its patient question, and this time she answers aloud, so quietly the word almost isn't a word. Not yet. She returns to her table and the map of weather and sound waits. She shades another page because graphite knows how to reveal what ink thought it had hidden. More numbers, small doodles of rectangles that look like stairs, and rectangles that look like cassette windows because a mind repeats what it loves. In the corner, faint, a sentence pressed from a page that is gone. Ask Kay about bypass. Kay has a right-leaning hand. Kay lives under the bridge selling screws. Kay remembered a girl asking about a bus and a man with a working umbrella and a night that tasted like a battery. The circle closes but refuses to lock. It is a loop that forces you to listen again, to stand again, to ask again without raising your voice. Out the window, a night bus drifts past with its aquarium glow, and she sees empty seats like open mouths. Somewhere a violin finds the right note on the first try and holds it like a hand that won't let go, and somewhere a coin falls and rings, and then another coin falls and rings, and the city makes a chord out of it whether you want it to or not. The word solved glows in a television in the apartment across from hers, and she thinks of replacing the bulb with a warmer one, something that tells the truth without making the room ugly. She chooses sleep for an hour because sleep is a tool, not a luxury. When she dreams the cranes on the mural step down and walk beside her to the station, quiet, inevitable, patient in the way only painted birds can be. In the dream, the east gate opens and no one screams and no one runs, and the fan hums in perfect time with a heart that did not stop. In the waking, the gate sings a little off and the fan wobbles and people run for trains because that is what they do when time is a bully. She ties her hair back and goes out into the bright that will burn any lie lazy enough to linger. The wind asks its question once more. She promises it an answer. Not yet. But she is close enough to feel the room get colder when a truth walks in. Morning chews the night slow, throws a gray light against the kitchen wall, and makes the cassette shells look like little bones. The press conference clock ticks in someone else's office. Jisoo pours coffee, and it tastes like an argument she can win if she just stays standing long enough. The storage unit inventory breathes on the table. Umbrellas. Jacket. Weather journal. A roll of masking tape with dust fur, the unlabeled cassette that laughed once at its own rehearsal. The city hums beneath it all, a refrigerator that never kicks off. She thinks of the fan wobble and the bypass and the Eastgate's tired B-flat. She thinks of the busker's neat, right-leaning signature in a permit book that a clerk filled like a diary. She thinks of a voice actor who told 1 million people to keep to the light in the summer of 2002 and wonders if warnings know when they are about to become memorials. The voice actor is older now, the kind of face that remembers makeup chairs as kindness. Her apartment smells like citrus peels and a career conducted inside small rooms. She offers tea with both hands and speaks in the pitch the city borrowed for safety, but softer. She remembers the session because she remembers everything. She remembers the script that used the phrase "mind the stare" in English because someone thought bilingual meant modern. She remembers a producer who cried unexpectedly when she hit the last line. She remembers the engineer who kept recordings of ambience the way others keep postcards, and how he mic'd the station at odd hours just to capture truth. Engineers are collectors. Archivists, men who love sound, treat it like a pet and a god. She does not recognize the rehearsal voice from the tape. If it imitated her cadence, it did it poorly. Amateur, nervous, young, could have been anyone with a radio stuck in their head. Anyone includes the busker, anyone includes the suspect, anyone includes a world of people rehearsing other people so they can move through it without tripping alarms. The actor hands over a cardboard file with copies of scripts because she is generous or because she wants the city to stop calling. Margins crowded with notes. Stress here, smile here, breathe here. Breathe here is underscored twice in her own brown ink. She smiles shyly at the vanity of it. Breathe here. She wishes the city listened. Transit Archives calls back with a voice made of brass fittings. He found a second ledger, not the driver's cash book, but a supervisor log that notes anomalies the way an aunt notes family rumor. Eastgate fan bypassed 2106 to 2119 due to noise complaints. Announcements rerouted to corridor speakers at higher gain. He reads it as if reading the minutes of a meeting that decided a future no one consented to. Higher gain means louder. Louder means farther. Farther means a voicemail can hold a train platform that isn't there. Minhee sends a waveform strip on Jisoo's phone. She has isolated the corridor slapback, measured the tail, counted the milliseconds the way you measure a pulse at a wrist. Eastgate that night, yes. Maybe exactly that minute, yes. The tape is honest. The label was not a lie. Honesty does not absolve a man or a city. It just narrows the hallway. The superior texts 12 words that feel like a door closing in slow motion. Draft the remarks. Keep it clean. We own the morning. Clean means unmessy truth. Clean means edges filed until no one bleeds when they touch the story. She drafts nothing. She prints the waveform instead. She prints a map. She prints the engineer's graph paper stairwell horn and tapes it to the wall like a child's drawing of a monster they have decided to get to know. She goes back to the storage unit with gloves and a patience that makes her jaw hurt. The jacket whispers when you turn it. She listens harder. The hem is double-stitched. The stitch gauge changes at the inner right seam, 0.5 millimeter shy. Old habit. Fingers look for what eyes won't confess. She teases a thread. A secret opens like a stingy mouth. Inside, a pocket a factory didn't sew. Inside the pocket, a shape that the world used before the world moved on. A microcassette, smaller than the loud ones. Clear plastic, hand-sized truth. No label, no date. Just scratches where a thumbnail worried at it through a year that was colder than it had a right to be. Microcassettes are mean. They eat themselves when you are careless. Minhee treats this one like a newborn. She threads it into a machine rescued from a radio station that became a smoothie shop. The motor hums. Tape moves. For a breath, nothing, then a room. Not a tunnel, not rain. A room that sounds like night. You can hear the tired light fixture, a faint electric insect, a chair's small complaint, a person breathing through their nose the way people do when they want to be quiet. And then a voice, male, pitched low on purpose, the kind of tone you put on when you want to be believed by strangers. He says a date. He says the city. He says solved, as if the word is itself an anchor dropped through noise. He is reading, not a confession, a headline, practicing the future, practicing the sensation of certainty. He breaks and sighs and tries again. Another take, another headline. The language shifts. Case closed in English. Mystery ends in Korean. Closure for a community in the voice actor's borrowed tempo. He stumbles on Community and laughs once, the same short laugh from the rehearsal tape. Paper scrapes. A coin lands. The fan is absent. The gate sings once. Far. East entrance. Bypass hour. Inside a room you only get to if you understand keys. Why would a guard record practice headlines? Why would anyone practice announcing victory over a pain he did not own unless he wanted to own it? Unless he wanted it to attach to him like a medal or a stain? Unless he wanted to live inside the moment he imagined the city would thank him for solving what he had nothing to do with, or everything, or something he cannot name. Jisoo's mouth goes dry. The tape burps into silence and the machine thunks at the end. She rewinds, careful, marks time code. The breath between solved and his next breath belongs to a man restraining himself. Pride or panic, pick one, or both. They search the rest of the jacket like it insulted their mother. Another seam holds a folded page, not a letter, not a map. A list of words: community, closure, healing, justice, finally, return, truth. Underline under finally, twice. Left-leaning script. A practice of gratitude he expected. A script for a podium he might never touch. She pictures him at home, late, TV blue, whispering into a recorder the lines he hears other men say when the world is made neat for cameras. He wanted neat. He wanted applause. He wanted to be the end of something in a life built of middles. The law can't eat ambition. It needs more than the dream of clapping. The superior hears tape and hears politics. He hears a man building a fantasy and says, this is not evidence. He is right. He hears an opportunity and says, this is perfect evidence. He is wrong. Both can be true in rooms where microphones bloom like lilies. Press conference in 2 hours. The mayor wants a ribbon to cut, metaphor or not. Sponsors want their logos at the bottom of a news cycle that ends in relief. The parents want a grave. The city wants not to be embarrassed by its past. The detective wants the 10 seconds to stop owning her like a bad debt. She goes to the parents because truth travels best by foot. She plays the microcassette because consent is part of honesty. The mother listens with eyes closed the way some people pray, and when the practiced word solved lands, her mouth tightens like a seam being sewn under poor light. The father stares at the table and taps an even count with 2 fingers and stops at 10 every time and begins again. He asks what it means. She says it means a man imagined the end of their story and tried it on like a coat. He asks if that man is the man. She says imagination is not a fingerprint. She says a list of words does not dig in the right place. She says she will not let a podium be the place their daughter is officially reduced to content. The podcaster, bless his velvet, is already outside with a camera because the city told him this address is a kind of door. She tells him to lower his mic, and he does because sometimes velvet is respect. He asks if today is the day. She says today is a day. He asks if solved is a fair word. She asks him if he sleeps well when he uses it. He says sometimes. He says never. He says both. He looks at his screen and sees his own reflection where the lens should be and lowers the phone like a man who forgot why he came. Back at the station, a young officer with sleeves rolled twice and hope rolled once up inside his chest walks in with a small plastic bag. Found this in the storage unit, he says, under the cardboard tray of cassette shells. It slid when we packed it. A tricolor pen, blue and black long gone, red still a knife. The clip is snapped. Inside the clear barrel, a sliver of paper folded tight as a vow. They tease it out with tweezers and patience, and the city holds its breath because cities love theater if the acting is honest. Numbers, 14 digits, a number that looks like a phone number looked when phones were small bricks and pockets were deeper. A prefix retired in 2006 when providers merged and men cut ribbons. A code that says this number belonged to a campus phone closet down a corridor no one walks unless they work nights. A closet with a jack that could hop calls to other lines, piggyback them, thread them like beads, make a message look like it came from anywhere while being made in a room with a light fixture that hums like a patient insect. Telecom digs in its basement and coughs up a map. That closet's number touched the victim's number once on a night of rain, at an hour that already had too much of everything. A call that lasted 16 seconds, long enough for a warning, long enough for 3 breaths, long enough for a coin to land and ring, long enough to say, don't wait at the station and mean it, or mean the opposite and not know which until the world ended. The number died months later when a switchboard was retired with a shrug. The man with the keys had access. Of course he did. The man with the umbrella stood near that closet and practiced being the voice that closes circles. Of course he did. This is not proof, the superior says, softer this time. This is a neck we can feel under our thumbs. He does not press down, not yet. They go to the closet because bodies believe places faster than papers do. The door complains. The air is baked dust. The light hums the same insect note as the microcassette room. On the shelf, a ring of old keys sleeps in peace. A strip of tape clings to metal with the word temple on it in the same left slanted hand. Keys to quiet, keys to gates, keys to rooms where phones pretend not to be connected to anything important. On the floor, a scrap of lacquer, red turned rust, umbrella blood, a paint that cheap handles wear like regret. The coin slot on the patch panel is jammed with a washer identical to the one from the seam between buildings because the world is a jokester who loves motifs. Jisoo photographs everything until her camera feels like a third hand. Min-hee hums along with the light and sniffs the old plastic like it might confess. What about the busker? A voice asks, and the room remembers right-leaning neatness and a permit signature and a crane charm found and turned in and a nervousness about stairs that might have been simple human fear. They knock on doors that lead to a rehearsal room in a college that for a while wanted to be a conservatory. A teacher with hands like metronomes remembers a student who practiced in tunnels because the acoustics forgave him. He missed a note the same way every time, a flaw like a fingerprint. He left in 2005. He sent one letter from Tokyo where he said the trains sing in perfect pitch, as if that were enough to explain distance. He is not here. He is a shadow that makes other shadows look more honest. The press conference hour arrives with a suit and a podium and a weather perfect for easy pictures. Reporters set out notebooks like plates. The mayor opens his mouth to speak a pre-solved day into being. Jisoo steps to the side of the stage and holds up her hand like a traffic cop at a funeral. She passes the superior a page, not a statement, and ask, delay, 72 hours. She lists specific contradictions. Tape honest but mislabeled once. Fan bypass documented. Gate signature matched. Closet call mapped. Jacket pocket opened. Microcassette with practiced headlines. Pen with number in the barrel. Keys labeled temple on a ring that belongs in this closet. A stack of almost enoughs that make a bridge she is willing to walk, but not let the city drive over until she knows where it lands. The superior reads, and the muscle in his jaw decides to be a good citizen. He whispers to the mayor. The mayor is better than his press team advertised. He can smell rot under frosting. He smiles into microphones and says the city remains vigilant. The city is thorough. The city is patient. The city values accuracy over speed. The city will sleep when it deserves to. He does not say solved. He says ongoing. Some people boo inside their smiles. Some people go home and for the first time in years sleep for 20 minutes without dreaming of static. Night again, because night is the truest witness. The tunnel tests the note and hits it. The coin rings. The gate sings its exhausted B-flat. The fan hums at the speed of memory. Jisoo walks the east entrance to the alley to the curb where chalk becomes rain and back again, tracing a figure 8 so old it might be a pilgrimage. On the mural, the cranes look like patience given wings. A paper crane has folded itself into the mouth of a painted bird as if the city is learning how to eat its own symbols. She touches the wall and her fingers collect a smudge of blue. The shade that makes sky on brick. The wind arrives with the question it is loyal to. She gives it more than not yet. She gives it names: closet, key, number, voice, practice, pride, fan, gate, coin, rain, 10 seconds. She says them like beads. She says them until they feel like a sentence. The sentence does not end yet. It asks for another clause. It asks for a verb that will stand in daylight. She goes home. The table waits like a shore. The microcassette sleeps. The jacket seam hangs its mouth open, rudely honest now. She writes a list that is not words for the podium, but words for herself. Sound does not lie. People do. Labels fold. Tapes remember. Practice is motive when confession won't come. Keys leave residue. Numbers never forget the holes they sat inside. Umbrellas chip where hands are cruel. Pride is a path to doors. She underlines pride until the paper thins. Outside, a bus exhales. Inside, the phone rings once and stops. An old tone, tinny, relentless, a ghost deciding to be polite. She looks at the ceiling and thinks of the temple bell rolling down the hill of air into tunnels and voicemails and rooms where light fixtures hum. Keep to the light, the actor said, and the city turned the sentence into a blanket. She sees again the mother's hands folded small against a storm. She knows which door she will knock next. The keys know too. They are asleep on a ring with a name that wants to be a map. The wind asks its question at her window and she answers with a promise she intends to pay in full. Tomorrow we open the door with temple on it and see if the room has been waiting for us, or if we have been practicing the sound of it opening for 23 years. Morning meets the temple like a bow. Thin light, clean air, pine resin sharpening the edges of everything. Shoes line up at the entrance like promises. The monk with the soft eyes recognizes the keyring taped with temple and nods with a sadness that looks practiced. Keys go missing in every faith, he says, but doors remember who uses them. He leads them past lanterns asleep from last night's rain, past the drum hall where a skin the size of a table waits for thunder, past a side corridor tourists never find. A metal door sits there, unpainted, unlovely, stamped with a number that means nothing unless you know the old map. The key slides in like it's been dreaming of this moment. The lock sighs. The hinge complains. Air folds out, dry, faintly sweet, rice paper, old oil, incense cooled to ash. Inside, a low room with wooden drawers labeled by season, a small counter where offerings were once counted by quiet hands, a squat amplifier with dials rubbed smooth, 2 microphones asleep under cloth, a wall calendar stuck on August 2002, the crane month, sketched in blue. Jisoo feels her heartbeat settle into the temple's rhythm and refuses to let it slow her mind. The monk stands in the doorway and does not cross the line. He says the room fell out of use when new offices were built downstairs. He says the old master kept ledgers here, and that one night the door stuck and no one thought to force it because there was always tomorrow. Tomorrow became a habit. Drawers glide, the wood patient under her gloves, paper murmurs, lists of donations, names that repeat over decades like hymns. Volunteers scheduled for subway kiosks to sell charms, cranes in small metal flocks, a sheet with cram school fundraiser printed in the temple's tidy font. Boxes distributed, boxes returned, 1 box missing, notes in the margin, rain that week, umbrellas broke, spirits steady. In the last drawer, a small lacquered tray holding 3 cassette sleeves cut from temple pamphlets and folded into pockets. Left-leaning script labels them in pencil: morning bell, corridor test, return. The pencil shines where the hand pressed too hard and broke the grain. The handwriting smells like the jacket's hidden list. It leans the same way the city leans when it's tired of standing up straight. Min-hee cradles the sleeves as if they could resent being read. The amplifier winks at her like a stubborn dog. There is a microcassette deck bolted to the shelf, an old dictation unit with a power cord that looks like it survived 2 floods and a bad marriage. She tests it gently. It hums. The machine remembers how to eat. Morning bell, a clean toll, overtones folding like silk, pigeons cooing with the certainty of creatures who never read headlines. Corridor test, footsteps in a stairwell that answers itself. Clap returning as a friend rather than an accusation. Sound levels marked aloud by a man counting with care. 1, 2, 3, then a coin, then the fan's absence like a pulled tooth, then the East Gate's B-flat raised from somewhere far. Return waits. She leaves it in its paper pocket for now because some doors get one chance and you don't take it until the room tells you the next word. In a cubby by the amplifier, a steno pad, edges furred, first pages filled with schedules and power checks. Later pages switch languages and dreams, community, closure. Finally, justice. Underline under finally twice because desire always wants a highlighter. A clipped newspaper from 1999, paper clipped to a page. Mayor announcing resolution to a different case. Mouth open in a shape the suspect practiced on the microcassette hidden in his jacket. Jisoo breathes. Pride has a smell. It's paper and dust and the human urge to be the last word. The monk watches her face without intruding. He says the suspect came here sometimes and sat at the far end of the courtyard like a man who wanted to be around quiet without being accused of wanting anything. He says he remembers the umbrella that did not turn inside out when the world demanded drama. He says a key disappeared in 2003 and they changed locks, but this door was forgotten because this room was paper and the new world was glass. He says an old master used to write "breathe here" on margins when copying sutras. He smiles softly, apologizes for offering poetry where law wants nails. Poetry is what keeps law human, she thinks, and puts the pad in a bag. Her phone rings. KJ, the screws man under the bridge. He says he found something under a workbench, a stash he called junk when he thought about selling it for scrap. A crate of old station plates, fan covers, a sign that once said East Entrance in a font that felt brave then. He says there's also a ring of keys taped with temple in handwriting that matches the tape in the closet. Another ring? Or the same one loaned and copied? He shrugs over the line. The city shrugs with him. She asks him to hold it like a bird and not to tell anyone else what song it sings. They call Tokyo. The conservatory teacher's letter leads to a rehearsal basement 3 stories below a street where trains hum on time. The busker answers on a phone that puts a tunnel in your ear. He laughs when they say Seoul because his body remembers every draft the station gave him. He says he was 19 and knew 3 songs badly. He says he practiced under the East Gate because the gate forgave his faults and made him sound bigger than he was. He says there was a man who sometimes watched without clapping, a man with a uniform that borrowed authority's shape, a man who nodded at the right moments the way a metronome nods. He says one night he heard a voice mimic the safety announcement and laugh, not cruel, embarrassed. He says he saw a girl with a red backpack and a blue hair tie and thought she looked like a completion he hadn't earned. He says he did nothing because 19 is a kind of sleep. He says he carried the guilt to another country where trains sing in tune. He says he will send a recording of his bad note from that year. The flaw like a fingerprint. He sends it. It misses the same way as the voicemail's violin. Almost, not quite. Enough to haunt. Not enough to hang a man. Min-hee puts the miss on a shelf in her machine like a jar labeled not proof but true. They lift the last sleeve, return. The room listens with them. The monk bows out and closes the door because some listening is indecent if shared. Min-hee threads the tape. The motor's whir becomes a spine. Silence. Then a scrape, a chair's small complaint. A breath, male, controlled, as if someone has been told by another man to stop sounding alive. The light fixture's insect hum. And then a voice, not the suspect's, younger, quick, a whisper testing courage in small doses. Keep to the light. The cadence matches the rehearsal tape, but tighter, less laughter at the edges, like the speaker learned that mirroring helps doors open. Another breath, not the same. Deeper. A second man, or the room making men. Then a phrase that has not appeared yet in any tape, any ledger, any dreamed press conference. Say it again. Not a command with teeth, a coax, a script direction. Say it again. The younger voice obeys. Keep to the light. Meters climb and fall. The gate sings B-flat from far, and the fan stays sleeping because the bypass owns the minute. Something small metal moves and finds peace. The coin, the washer, the city's nervous habit. The tape clicks. Silence. The machine stops like a held breath let go. A second voice. A coax. A director. Proof of company. Proof of a room with two shadows. Proof of what? The law wants clean lines. This is a blur with a steady outline. She rewinds and listens again until the words turn to texture. The second voice never rises. It never leaves the frame of calm. It never says a name. It is a hand on a shoulder in the dark. She writes down the timbre. Older, no accent, throat cleared, the kind of tone supervisors develop so they can move men without starting fights. She thinks of KJ, the bridge uncle, the right-leaning hand. She thinks of the closet and the taped key, and the way systems concuss their own archives. She calls KJ and asks him to come to the temple. He says he sells screws. She says bring an ear. The press conference dissolves into a statement typed and released like a weather report. The mayor chooses vigilance over victory and pays for it with 100 angry comments and 3 editorials that say uncertainty is bad for business. The podcaster streams from the temple gate because he understands that gates make stories look taller. He tells people to be patient, and his chat colors him a saint and a sellout at the same time. The parents stay home. They stir soup and let it cool and do not eat it. They stand near the window and polish the glass with the sleeve of a sweater, the way you do when you need to do something that makes the world sharper and you have run out of legal tasks. KJ arrives with hands that are too big for small rooms. He takes his hat off because the temple demands it without speaking. He listens to return. He doesn't blink. He looks at the floor like it might rise and argue. He says the second voice could be anyone with a throat that survived 1,000 hallway arguments. He says he said say it again to 10 men a night for 20 years. He says he said it to himself when the bypass failed and the fan screamed and he needed a quiet minute to think. He says he doesn't know that voice. He says he could be lying and not know it. He says this city has a way of putting you in a story while you're buying noodles and then telling you you were always the villain when all you did was ask a boy to sing on key. Jisoo believes him and also puts his name on the wall because belief and work are not married. They go on separate walks and report back with different weather. She asks him about extra keys. He says copies breed in pockets if you leave them alone. He says a man who wanted quiet would steal quiet and label it temple because begging quiet to come by itself has a poor record. He says he will open any other doors with that name on them. He says he will not go inside. Night drifts down the hill. The drum hall deepens its breath. Candles bloom at the mural again because people heard temple and wanted to make a pilgrimage to a wall. The violinist returns and hits the note clean and then dirty and looks around like a boy waiting to be graded. Coins land. Coins stop. The wind asks its question by the laundry vent and the alley says it is listening. Jisoo walks the figure 8 again, east gate to alley to curb to east gate, and times the loop until the numbers are a prayer she can say while thinking about something else. Faces, voices, the second man's throat, the busker's letter from Tokyo, the list of words tucked in a jacket seam. The way finally looked like it wanted to be set on fire and warmed hands in a small circle of men. She opens the storage unit one more time because meaning moves when no one's watching. The jacket gives up no more secrets. The coin dish with the crane charm sits stubborn and innocent as ritual. The weather journal's block letters refuse to lean. On the floor by the back wall, a shadow that should be a shadow and isn't. She kneels. Dust outlines where a box used to sit. The outline is smaller than the cassette tray, larger than a shoebox. A notice from the unit rental company says an item was removed by authorized family on a date that sits exactly between the raid and today. She calls the suspect's sister. The line rings twice and her soft voice arrives like a hand offering tea. She says she came and took a plant mister and a bag of photos and a plastic box with pens because he asked her to bring him familiar things. He asked, from holding? He called it a legal hour and said the air was wrong and he wanted it to smell like rain. She brought him rain in bottles. She brought him cassette labels, blank and neat. She brought him pens. She did not open the plastic box. She did not count the sleeves. The box is in her apartment. It waits on a low table near plants that lean toward light because that is their only religion. She sets it down between them and steps back like a host making room for guests with collars and opinions. Inside, blank cassette sleeves cut from temple pamphlets, folded like the ones in the room. A stack of small printed scripts, public safety phrases, press conference phrasings, clipped from newspapers across years like a scrapbook of authority. Photos, the Lantern Festival at the temple from summers stacked like coins. Crowds blur, faces bloom and disappear. One photo holds. Umbrellas like jellyfish under light. A mirror on the arcade across the street catching the world the way a lake catches sky. In the mirror, a left-handed man holds a yellow umbrella that keeps its shape and looks not at himself, but at the glass, as if expecting the world to practice his smile. Behind him, nearly off-frame, a girl's red backpack is a square of color in gray rain. The date stamp is the month before she vanished. It proves nothing. It proves everything the city already suspects and nothing the law can carry without cracking. She thanks the sister and watches the plants breathe. On the way out, she notices a small note taped to the mister. Horn stare 13, test when quiet. Left-leaning hand. The mister is clear plastic, drops like glass beads clinging to its flank. She holds it up and the drops line up in a pattern she doesn't like. 3 long, 1 short, coin, light coin. Echoes choreography. She puts the mister back because weather is not evidence, even when it tries. She drives to the station closet with the taped coin slot and the labeled keys and the hum that never learned any other song. There is a second door past the patch panel, narrower, pretending to be a wall. The temple key doesn't fit because the world is not that neat, but a smaller key on the ring does, one labeled with a number that matches a utility cabinet no one logged properly. Behind it, a shelf with a small box of recorder mic windscreens, one missing and a note. Replace after corridor tests. A clipboard with sign-outs, names written and crossed, some in left-leaning, some in neat right. 2 signatures share a day. The suspect and a supervisor with initials that make her mouth go dry. She photographs, she prints, she draws the line with a ruler on ghosts. Outside, the wind finds the alley and asks. This time, she answers with a plan out loud, a litany that doesn't care if pigeons laugh. Pull supervisor tapes from HR. Call the busker's dorm landlord and ask for the thing he forgot he kept. The mailbox log with the right-leaning hand. Ask the monk for volunteer rosters with initials under shifts that match the East Gate's bypass nights. Map the miss in the violin against the miss in the voicemail, and let math make a cradle for intuition. Knock on the supervisor's door at dinner, not to accuse, but to listen for the second voice breathing through a living room. Ask the sister for permission to search the pen box for more numbers that pretended to be plastic. Bring the mother to the mural tomorrow when the crowd is thin and ask her if the thank you on the rehearsal tape wears her daughter's edges or someone else's. Invite the podcaster to sit in silence in the temple room for 10 minutes without a mic and see if he can do it. He will try. He will fail. She will not judge him for it. She walks the figure 8 one last time in the day's last blue. Gate, alley, curb, gate. The fan hums, the gate sings, the coin falls, the violin tries, the city performs itself with its usual excellence. Above it, in a room with drawers labeled by season, a tape waits in its paper pocket. Return. She rewinds to the breath before the second voice says, say it again, and listens for the air between men. There is always a teacher in a crime like this, or a student, or both inside the same skin. The temple bell doesn't ring. It doesn't have to. The city has spoken enough for one day. She pockets the plan like a talisman and promises the wind what she promised the parents. She will not hand the city sleep until sleep has earned them. The wind nods its invisible head. It knows stubbornness when it hears it. It carries her promise down the stairwell that acts like a horn into a closet with a humming light, across a mural where cranes wait for someone to tell them they can land. Night doesn't fall. It leaks, slow, like ink under a door. The city breathes in diesel and rain and a promise that something is about to break, maybe quietly, maybe loud. Jisoo drives through back streets, the windshield wipers struggling against a drizzle too fine to catch. In her rearview mirror, the mural flashes by once, a blur of blue wings and white cranes that now seem to bow their heads, as if tired of holding secrets. She keeps the radio off. The hum of the tires is enough. The word temple keeps looping in her head like an old song she can't forget. Not the sacred kind, but the kind that hides something behind harmony. She pulls into a parking lot behind a convenience store that's changed owners 3 times since the case began. The fluorescent lights buzz like mosquitoes. The clerk doesn't look up. The smell of warm noodles hangs in the air, familiar, mundane, cruel in its normality. Jisoo walks to the side alley. Rainwater pools near the drain where 10 seconds once went missing. She kneels, flashlight cutting through the mist, tracing the line of old tiles. One tile catches light differently, glazed, hair-cracked, older. She pries it up. Underneath, the concrete is patched, newer than the rest. Someone sealed this after the search ended, after the cameras left. She photographs it, fingers steady. Beneath her glove, the ground is cold, a reminder that stories rot, but not evenly. Back in the car, she spreads her notes on the passenger seat. The bypass log, the temple drawer rosters, the right-leaning initials, the tape labeled return. The pattern is there, whispering. The suspect's hours match temple volunteer shifts too perfectly. Same Thursdays, same weather. But a new name appears each time under supervisor. KJ's full name, the screws man under the bridge. Her stomach tightens. The old uncle who sold her truth in pieces. His right-leaning hand, his voice in the tape saying, say it again. She wants to deny it, to file it under coincidence, under fatigue, under a city's bad joke. but the numbers do not blink. She calls Min-hee. The line crackles. Run the voice again, Jisoo says. Match it against KJ's interview. Silence. Then Min-hee's sigh. You already know. The waveform doesn't lie. Same grain, same breath length, same throat clearing before command. KJ's voice coached the younger one on the tape. The one that mimicked the safety message. The one that became the city's haunting. She replays the sentence. Keep to the light. The imitation trembles. The older voice softens. Repeats. Again. Then the laugh. An echo of pride, maybe of satisfaction. Her hand clenches. He wasn't the monster who took. He was the one who taught how to take. A man who taught silence how to sound gentle. She drives straight to the bridge, rain intensifying into something alive. The stall is dark. A metal shutter rolled down. A note taped crooked. Closed due to weather. But screws don't take holidays. She circles the support columns. A candle flickers in a tin can under the girders. Fresh wax, fresh match. The rain should have killed it, but it burned steady. Next to it, a small plastic bag, rice cakes, 2 coins, a folded paper crane sealed in a cheap plastic sleeve. The handwriting on the bag's tag leans left. The suspects. The message, for the man who helped me see the gate. Jisoo feels her chest hollow. The mentor. The one who gave him keys, bypass access, and a word, temple, as camouflage. The one who turned a collector of sound into a participant in disappearance, KJ. The screws man who fixed everything except himself. She calls his number. No answer. She texts. Delivered, not read. The wind rises and shoves the rain sideways. She looks at the river, brown, swollen, nervous. On the far side, a faint shape under the bridge's second span. A motorcycle, lights dimmed, a figure kneeling near the water. She runs. The world compresses into breath and concrete and heartbeat. The figure doesn't turn. When she reaches him, she sees the hat. World's okayest uncle, soaked through, brim drooping. He's holding the temple keyring in one hand, the one labeled temple, and the smaller one for the closet. The other hand holds a bag heavy with screws that glint like wet teeth. He doesn't flinch when she shouts his name. You taught him, she says. You gave him the room. He nods once. He wanted order. I gave him quiet. I didn't know what he'd fill it with. His voice is small, like a prayer to machinery. You told him to say it again, she presses. You rehearsed her warning. You let him record fear. KJ sets the bag down, screws spilling like coins. He said he wanted to make people careful, said he'd build a message the city couldn't ignore. He wipes rain from his brow. I thought he meant art. I didn't think he'd, He doesn't finish. He asked where sound goes when nobody listens. I told him nowhere. Maybe he wanted to prove me wrong. Lightning flares, thin and surgical. For a blink, KJ looks transparent. He recorded it, Jisoo says, but you edited it. You made it clean. He doesn't deny it. I thought if the message sounded real, someone would find her faster. I took his noise and polished it. The tape you all found, half mine, half his. I spliced fear with good intentions. The confession crawls out of him, wet and pale. I sent it to the paper, the one that wrote solved years too early. I thought the city would see itself. Where is he now? She asks. KJ laughs once, the same broken laugh from the tape. They put him in a room with cameras. He won't talk to anyone. He asked for one cassette deck, said he wanted to record the truth this time. He looks at the river. But truth's a bad singer. It never stays in key. He drops the key ring into the water. Let it rest, he says. Jisoo grabs his arm. Rest is for the dead, not for you. He looks at her, eyes rimmed red from rain and years. Detective, he says softly, some of us were already gone before she was. The words hang there, heavy and final. She tightens her grip. If you want forgiveness, tell me everything, every tape, every night, every word you spliced. He nods, defeated. There's one more, the master reel. I kept it dry. He gestures toward the bridge's support beam, where a maintenance hatch hides a small plastic box sealed in tar. She retrieves it, heart hammering. Inside, a reel-to-reel tape, label half-peeled, final mix, temple message. They walk to her car in silence. In the rear seat, the reel looks like an eye half open. At the lab, Min-hee threads it through an ancient player. The tape begins with the temple bell, warm, steady. Then the fan hum, steady, unmistakable. Over it, 2 voices merge, the suspects and KJ's, a duet of devotion and confusion. Keep to the light, says the younger. Say it again, the older guides. Mind the stairs, they echo, voices blending until you can't tell one from the other. Then, faint, a third voice, female, soft, curious. Is this loud enough? It's her, the missing girl, clear, alive, testing a mic. Then the sound cuts. 10 seconds of snow, silence. Then the headline, read by the suspect. Seoul, 2002, cold case solved. The room freezes. Jisoo presses her palms to the table. He recorded her voice himself, Minhee whispers. She was there, maybe willingly. KJ stares at the floor. She was one of the volunteers, the one selling charms. She came to test the speakers. She laughed because the mic was too close. He buries his face in his hands. He told her to wait at the stairwell while he adjusted the levels. I didn't stay. I heard the laugh. Then the fan stopped. When I came back, only rain. Jisoo feels the city collapse inward. The crime wasn't a hunt. It was a rehearsal that never ended. The girl spoke her own ghost into being. The tape carried her laughter into decades. She looks at KJ. You buried her. He shakes his head. No, he said he'd take her to the infirmary. Said she fainted. I believed him. I fixed the tape. I made it clean. I thought I was helping. The reel spins out, end slapping empty. Jisoo stops it. In the silence, the city outside hums like an audience that doesn't know whether to clap. The timeline rearranges itself. Girl volunteers at temple, record safety message, fan bypass, rain. The suspect, guided by a man who believed in sound more than people, captures 10 seconds where life folds into static. A misstep, a fall, a cover-up wrapped in good intentions and cowardice. KJ stands slowly. You have what you need, he says. I'll sign it. His eyes meet hers. But don't let them call it solved. Promise me. Jisoo nods, throat tight. It's not solved, she says. It's understood. That's different. By dawn, he's gone. They find his hat on the bridge railing, the slogan blurred by rain. No body, just ripples that fade like applause too long delayed. The report writes itself in her hands. Cold case reopened. Final recording reveals truth behind temple rehearsal. But she deletes the headline. Writes instead, 10 seconds of silence. The city finally listens. She saves it, folders it, steps outside. Morning climbs through fog, deliberate. The cranes on the mural gleam wet, their wings streaked by runoff that looks like tears but isn't. Jisoo stands at the curb where it all began. The wind, ever faithful, asks its question. This time she answers out loud, clear, unbroken. We keep to the light. And somewhere deep in the tunnels, the city exhales, a long, shivering note that sounds, for the first time, like peace.